What's up, everyone? Welcome to one of the best days in video games for all of 2015. You ready to talk about it, Matt?
I am. I'm prepared.
This is a big, big day. We have two huge games that came out today. One that came out just late last week, which was Black Ops 3. We have Fallout 4. We have Rise of the Tomb Raider. Today's the launch of the Steam machines.
Long awaited.
Yeah, long awaited, but they came out today. Today is a huge, huge day, and we're going to talk about all that stuff on the show today. Before we get to it, though, I just want to talk about a couple things. The forums launched yesterday. Matt, have you been on them yet?
I have.
What do you think?
Briefly. Nice stuff.
Yeah, all
Good.
built from scratch. Like, those are forums that we literally built from nothing into what they are, and they're in beta right now for premium subscribers and people like Matt, who are staff.
That makes me premium. It's cool.
Yeah, you're more than premium. You're above premium. And they're in pretty good shape. Like, we've been getting bug reports from people. There haven't been that many. So once we have kind of all the bugs worked out, we'll be opening them up to all our basic users who can't watch this anyway. Just so you know, as far
What
as...
are they even going to talk about?
Yeah, exactly. So for all the premium people, there should be an influx of people into the forums here in the next few days as we crack them open to everybody. But I do urge everyone to please go on the forums, because there's the only way we'll ever find out if there are issues or bugs or anything like that is if you guys use them. Like, we obviously tested them as much as we could, but you won't find all those really nestled bugs until kind of everybody gets in there and starts doing stuff that we didn't even expect you to do. So go in there, bang around, make some crazy threads, talk some crazy smack or whatever. It'll all be beneficial for Sifted in the end. But it feels really good to have those forums out there. Obviously been talking about them on the show for a long time, and about them in general ever since I announced the site. So I do want to apologize for it taking so long for these forums to be done. Just a number of different circumstances kind of resulted in them being delayed. But they are up there now, and we are making fixes to them as you guys find the bugs and everything. Gifted, I know that was supposed to have launched last week. That was kind of put on the back burner to get the forums done, but that should be coming really soon. And hopefully you guys will dive into that and send some gift subscriptions to your friends. And if you're a basic subscriber, hopefully they'll find it and request premium subscriptions, and all the trial users as well. So really excited about that. We do have a big show to get to. We don't want to waste too much time, so let's get to the big six. Okay, Matt, so Friday. It was announced today that Friday Nintendo is doing the next Direct. They did say it would be before the end of the year, and it's actually a little earlier than I thought. Obviously, this is the first Nintendo Direct without Iwata, and he was usually the guy who intros every Direct, and he had his kind of little...
He's the heart of the Directs. Really.
He was, yeah, and he kind of had his own little thing that he did with, like, Direct, and, like, that's... It's going to be weird watching the first Direct without Iwata.
Yeah. Well, I figure you think they'll start with kind of a little tribute sort of thing?
I would hope so. I mean, I feel like they kind of have to.
Yeah.
I mean, Nintendo really hasn't expressed its grief publicly. I mean, they put out that cryptically worded, like, press release from Japan a little bit, and I think Reggie had a quote or two about it, but they haven't really celebrated him yet, and I think maybe the time has passed enough now that maybe they feel okay about doing it. I know I felt like I had just kind of gotten over it. And then, like, I saw the press release today about it, and I was like, oh, man, it just kind of brought up all those feelings all over again. So it'll be interesting to see, one, how they handle the whole Iwata thing, and if they mention it at all. Can you imagine them doing a Direct and not saying something, though? Like,
no, they have to.
They have to.
Yeah.
Like, that's the elephant in the room, basically, right? And then I think another big question is, will we see the new president? And is he...
That's a good question.
I mean,
because he came out of HR, right?
Yeah, I mean, he had been in HR like a long time ago, and
he deals with people.
Yeah,
right.
But I don't want to judge someone based upon how they look or whatever, but he doesn't appear to be the type that would maybe want to front something like this. I mean, he's never been in the public eye. Iwata has been in the public eye even before he was the president. He would go and present his games at Space World and things like that for HAL.
Yeah, but you never. I mean, to be fair, like Reggie was never a public face until he joined Nintendo, and all of a sudden he came out and kicked ass and took names, and now he's like he's a fixture of gaming. Like, you can't imagine games without Reggie now.
I think if you look at Reggie, though, you could see him doing that. Like, he's a gregarious guy. And
somewhat, but also I think you can look at him and see him as a kind of a slick salesman, kind of like
creepy
dude with creepy dude with like weird eye. You know, my body is ready shot is a little intimidating. Yeah. He's also very tall in person. Yeah. He's like, oh wow.
Or could it be that Reggie takes these over?
I wouldn't be against that. I don't know if Reggie has the time for that.
I think he has the time.
You think?
Yeah, I think he does. I mean, if Iwata had the time, and Iwata's actually working on games, or was, I still can't speak about him in past tense. He was working on games at the same time. Like, he was still going in and advising the teams on actual development, which Reggie doesn't do at all. So, you know, I just think
Iwata came off as much more personable than
right.
Reggie. I mean, Reggie is cool and Reggie is fun and charismatic, but like Iwata felt like he was talking to you, and Reggie feels a little more like he's pitching to you.
He's talking at you,
yeah.
Reggie, yeah.
And he's not who I'd pick to replace Iwata if they want to keep kind of that same sort of like person-to-person vibe that especially the Iwata Asks stuff had.
Yeah.
But the directs in general kind of felt like Iwata's going to sit down and like take some time and visit with us and tell us what's going on, you know. And like I think it would feel a little too slick with Reggie.
I feel like, you know, part of the charm of Iwata too was kind of the language barrier a little bit, because you know, English was his probably not even his second language, probably his third language. And so you always appreciated when he tried to speak English at the beginning of like the Western versions of the Nintendo Directs. And you know, it'll be interesting to see if the new president takes up that role, or if he finds someone else within Nintendo of Japan. Because that's the other thing is, like, you know, Nintendo of Japan rules Nintendo. Mm-hmm. Nintendo of America is a puppet to Nintendo of Japan. So it would be really hard for me to see them let Reggie take the helm, one, just because he's not from Nintendo of Japan, but two, because he doesn't speak Japanese. So they need to come...
And the Directs have a big impact over there, too.
Exactly. So they need to find somebody who's probably bilingual. I mean, or otherwise we're going to end up dealing with a translator
what
or
about,
subtitles.
Maybe Bill Trinan?
He's probably a good choice. I mean, he has actually kind of ended up hosting some of the Directs that were just for the West already.
He has that same kind of like, maybe not to the level of Iwata, but he still has that sort of like person-to-person.
Sure, he's a really charming guy. A really good guy, by the way. He's a really, really good dude to just hang out with.
And super smart. Like, he knows everything there is to, you know, he knows everything about Nintendo and what's happening at any given time, it seems.
And beyond fluent in Japanese.
Yes.
I mean, he's Miyamoto's right-hand man for a reason. Whenever Miyamoto needs to be translated, he trusts him. So, and Nintendo trusts him. So, you're right. I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually a really good point. It might be Bill Trinan who ends up taking up that mantle and kind of doing both the Japanese and U.S. ones. But, you know, there's that whole corporate culture in Japan where, you know...
That was the other cool thing about Iwata was he also was sort of emblematic of that culture.
Yeah.
But he was sort of proof that it didn't have to be an alienating one, you know?
Yeah.
It was like he made it charming.
Yeah.
You know, he got the business done, but he didn't make it feel like that.
Yep.
It's, you know, everybody, I mean, on every level... Iwata is basically impossible to replace. Yeah,
well, I mean, I think if you talk to Michael Pachter, he might disagree with you on that one. He's not been a fan of Iwata ever, and he caught a lot of grief because I think he made a comment after he passed, you know, expressing that his regret that he had passed and he was way too young to die, and then people were like, "Oh, but you know, you said he was a terrible executive," which is irrelevant to the fact...
Doesn't mean Michael Pachter wanted him dead.
Right, exactly. And it also doesn't mean that he didn't respect him as a person and he didn't think his heart was in it or anything like that. He just didn't think that he made the right decisions. And you know how Twitter is in social media. So
I mean, I certainly have my criticisms of how Nintendo's directional choices went in the last, you know, half decade or so, but like, you can't fault the man for, you know, especially in his game development and his, you know, public-facing side.
Well, also, if it weren't for his tenure at Nintendo, they wouldn't have the money in the bank right now to be able to survive a massive flop like the Wii U, which they're going to with aplomb. Like, it's just a mere flesh wound.
They could probably do like 2 or 3 more of them.
Yeah, I mean, because of what Iwata did with the DS and the Wii. So... Every coin has 2 sides, Matt.
Yep.
And that's, I think, the case for Iwata as well. And so let's talk about the content that they're going to show, because obviously a big part of Directs is like you get to see really good looks at games.
The timing is very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, look, the first game, I think this is going to probably be the last Direct. I don't see Nintendo doing another one in December. So the last one for 2015.
Last one for this year, yeah. I would think so.
So what I'm saying is that this is going to have to be a huge Xenoblade Chronicles X presentation. I mean, the game comes out December 3rd. Is that right?
That sounds right. First week of December for sure.
And we just got the code.
I have that pre-ordered and I don't remember when it comes. I don't remember when it's shipping. That's ridiculous. What am I doing?
The crazy part is that we got review code today from Nintendo, and I still don't know if there's enough time to get the review done for embargo.
Yeah, it's big. that's the Xenoblade. I mean, the Wii one was gigantic.
I never finished the Wii one.
I did finish most of the Wii one.
It was just too much.
I have not finished the 3DS version
at
all, but that was one of my favorite games. Certainly my favorite JRPG last generation.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember the last time I played a JRPG for 60 hours or more, which is what Xenoblade Chronicles X is. It's of that length, just like the last Xenoblade.
Oh yeah, and it was different, it was big, it was open, and I really liked that they, because it was localized in Europe, so they used British voice actors.
Yeah.
And it was just sort of nice to play a game that didn't have all the usual suspects in it.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I love Troy Baker to death, but I
no
don't,
Troy,
I don't
no
need
Nolan.
him to be in
I'm
everything.
cool with that. Yeah.
It was just like all these guys I'd never heard their voices before, and it was cool. It felt a little more like an alien world I'd never visited before.
Yeah,
it was Rhine time.
Yeah.
Over and over.
So are you going to play this, Matt? Are you going to play Xenoblade Chronicles?
I hope so. Because I don't have a Wii U, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping to pick up one of those Black Friday bundles, like the $250 with like 2 games or something.
Yeah, it's what, $250 with Mario Kart and Splatoon, right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I can get one of those, I will get.
Are you going to go and wait in line on Black Friday?
You silly man.
I don't know. I saw a bundle today though for.
If I can get it online, I will order it. But I'm not waiting in line for that shit. I don't do that.
I think I saw on Xbox One bundle today. I think we curated the story for it. It was like, for Black Friday, it was the console. What was it?
Was it like the console and like a game and another thing? It was like $400 for the whole thing.
Oh, it was with the Samsung TV.
With the TV, $500 for the Xbox One and the TV.
And a 40-inch Samsung
decent
panel.
TV,
yeah,
too.
I mean, any Samsung panel is pretty decent. So yeah, that was another. I mean, there's been crazy doorbuster deals this week.
Have you ever done that? Ever done the Black Friday?
I've never done it
Me
ever.
neither.
I've never done it for anything. Not for a TV or nothing. And look, I've been very close. Like, I see these ads and I'm like, oh man, like I want to do that. But then I drive past the Best Buy and it like, I'm getting off work like the day before, like Black Thursday or Gray Thursday or whatever you want to call it. And I'm driving past the Best Buy and I see it and I'm just like, I can't do it, man.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
If it were all gamers, I would do it because I love it. Like, I used to, for like launches and stuff like that, I love hanging out in lines and just talking to other players and just shooting the crap for 4 or 5 hours, waiting to get a console, getting excited about it. But when you're sitting there with people who are like trying to get like a washer and dryer and stuff like that, like I just don't know if there's going to be a connection there. Like,
it's a little depressing.
well, when you can get a washer and dryer for half price, it's like.
Yeah, but then I start thinking about like all the fucking, I start thinking about all the economic realities that make it, that there's bullshit that people need to do that just to get necessities.
Yeah.
And then I just get, I was like, I'm here to get a cheap video game.
Yeah.
It's just like,
and the person next to you like needs to wash their clothes.
Yeah, the person next to me needs to wash their children's clothes.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I can get Halo real cheap. And it's just like, yeah, fuck me.
Yeah, well,
just like, get
chances
out.
are you're not standing in line. You're not going to wait in line to get Halo.
Well,
so.
the other thing is like, part of it is, there's a point at which like what's worth your time versus what's worth your money.
The question is like how much is your time worth in dollars?
Right.
I think we've tried to ask that question. We sifted a little bit. It's like, how much do people value their time?
Right.
Are they willing to spend a little bit of money to save themselves hours or not?
Yeah,
so,
and I'm generally not willing to stand out in the cold to save like $200 on a TV that I don't really even need.
Not that we have to really stand out in the cold here.
This year probably not. Although I will say, this is just Los Angeles in a nutshell, is like I'm driving over here and there's like people walking around in like the long woolen coats and the puffy jackets and scarves and woolen hats. It's 72 degrees out.
There's
right now.
it's like actually At night it's been getting down to like 65 with a little breeze, and you would
But
think...
it's room temperature out there, and everyone's dressed like the blizzard of 42 is coming in. It's ridiculous. I know everybody wants to show their winter outfits because you don't get to wear them in LA at all, but it's just like you don't need a giant woolen hat on. Like, you're not losing that much heat out of your head.
Yeah.
It's about as warm as like a store.
I feel like I'm going a little off on a tangent here, but just as an anecdote, like, I bought a winter coat 11 years ago, and it still looks brand new. Because the only time I ever wear it is like the week that I go home for Christmas to the East Coast. Like, otherwise it just sits in the closet all year round.
Yep.
And I don't really snowboard anymore, so I don't take it out for that. It's literally 11 years old, and it looks like the day I bought it.
Well, I went out on Friday. I had a nighttime shoot, and I went out and I wore a jacket because it was like 50 degrees.
Yeah.
And I realized it was the first time I'd worn a jacket in 2015.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It has been very warm.
Yeah. So let's get back on topic for Nintendo Direct. So,
speaking of out in the cold, Nintendo. That was mean. But no, if I can get one, for the right price, I will absolutely get a Wii U. Mainly because I want to play Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yeah.
Well,
then you have all that other stuff.
I'm not going to claim that Xenoblade Chronicles is going to be a system seller for the Wii U, but it is selling me the system.
Will you go back and play games like Super Mario World?
Oh yeah, I'll play
Mario 3D World.
I actually own several Wii U games, like because I didn't know how long a lot of the stuff's going to stay in print.
Yeah.
And as we all know, once Nintendo games go out of print, like, see ya.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get them
They don't
anymore.
come back. Yeah.
So I've got like Wonderful 101, Lego City Undercover.
Mario Kart?
No, I don't have Mario Kart. I'm not a huge Mario Kart fan.
Really?
Overall. Never have been. I have Bayonetta 2. I have a Transformers Prime game that I got in a sweepstakes thing, I think, for some reason. And there's one more I got. Oh, Pikmin 3.
Oh, okay. That's a good. That's a good starting library you got there.
Yeah. So I mean,
a lot of the essentials.
There's stuff I'm interested in. It's just it's this thing where I'm like, I don't want to pay like $350 for like, last gen hardware and my first tablet. I just the price is slowly coming down to where I think it should be.
Okay, so here's my other question about the Nintendo Direct: is do you think they're going to bring the mobile content into the Direct? So with Miitomo, do you think Miitomo
what else
is going to be a part of the Direct?
What else do they have to talk about, really?
I mean,
I guess they talk about that new Animal Crossing thing, or what?
Amiibo Festival?
Yokai? Maybe they might talk about Yokai. Yokai.
It came out today, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal for them. I mean, they want to try to foster that franchise as much as they can here in the States. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit on that, but you're right. I mean, there's not a lot for them to talk about at this point. Like, a lot of the Wii U games that have been announced are coming out or have already come out. Like,
I think they'll do Xenoblade. I think they'll do Yokai Watch, and I think they will probably have a big thing on Star Fox coming next year. And maybe they'll touch on the mobile, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did like a Direct entirely about the mobile move when it was closer to happening next year.
Or what about Triforce Heroes? They might do something on that. Because it just came out and like they stopped doing Directs. Like usually they would have done one just for that game. And they did put out like other content with like some of the developers.
Well, that's the other thing is like Triforce Heroes would be a good, like you could get a really good segment out of it if you have everybody play it on camera together and sort of like, get like, they used to do that where they get like some of the top level guys together, and they do that on the E3 stage too, where they play something together and then they sort of like have a lot of reactions and stuff. Yeah. And you can definitely do that with Triforce Heroes and make it a good segment. Mario
Tennis Ultra Smash they might do a little bit on because that comes out here in like a week or two, I believe, and they haven't done a lot of press for that. So.
I think it'd be fun to see them do a Fatal Frame thing. But I feel like that
ship sailed.
That ship sailed. It's Halloween is over and that game's not going to get a push.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm excited to see the changes, like, corporately, to see how they represent themselves without Iwata and things like that. As far as games content, I'm not that excited, because, they've already covered Xenoblade Chronicles in Directs before. So, maybe we get Zelda. Am I being crazy?
Yes.
I don't know. That president wants to come out and make a big splash. I'm just saying.
That game's not anywhere near the thing we're going to see yet.
You never know.
E3.
Nintendo's known for surprises.
E3 if we're lucky, and it's not going to be on the Wii U anyway, so.
We'll see. So, I don't know. We'll have to wait till Friday. So Friday, Nintendo's Direct will go up.
Is it the 12th?
The 12th, yeah. Would that be Friday? That's Thursday. Okay, my bad. So Thursday it happens. They don't really do them live anymore. They just kind of post the video and you watch it. So,
but we all watch it together, so it's kind of live.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's pre-produced, but it's a shared experience.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But obviously on Sifted, we will definitely curate the live replaying that they usually do. And then
you can go jump on the forums and talk about it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And
break them.
And then we'll post the archive, obviously, for those of you who actually have jobs and have to work on Thursday and can't sit and watch a live Nintendo stream in the middle of the day.
What kind of jobs don't let you do that?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, we'll be on it for you guys. But look for Thursday if you want to watch it live. It will definitely be up on Sifted. So, time to move on, Matt, to Black Ops 3.
Hooray.
Yeah, hooray. That seems to have been the reception to this game.
Yeah.
But isn't it the reception to every Call of Duty?
At this point, yeah. It was fun. I saw a thread on GAF about rank the Call of Duty campaigns, like your favorite to the least. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll do that. And I thought about it, and I was like, my favorite, number 1, Modern Warfare 2. Number 2, Modern Warfare 1. Number 3, Call of Duty 2. Number 4, Call of Duty 1. Number 5, everything else.
Really?
To me, that series is OG Infinity Ward, and I don't care particularly much for any of the other.
You didn't like Black Ops, the first one, with the branching campaign and how it had the strategy stuff in it?
Totally uninteresting to me.
Really? I really liked it.
Not the story, that kind of story with the number stations and all the weird conspiracy shit. I love that shit.
Yeah.
But the campaign did not grab me in any way.
Really? I
whatsoever.
really liked it.
I didn't care.
I loved it. It had the branching decision pass and everything.
There's just something about Infinity Ward. I love the way Infinity Ward tells a story, and I just don't feel like Treyarch or the people who took over Modern Warfare 3.
You should rephrase that. You liked the way Infinity Ward told stories, because their last couple games haven't been great.
Well, Infinity Ward, I mean OG Infinity Ward, before everybody, the exodus to Respawn. Because the people who made Modern Warfare 3 were not the same team that made 1 and 2.
Yeah,
probably. I didn't finish Modern Warfare 3. That didn't grab me. Whatever filter they're running those things through, because I figure at some point when the game series gets as big as that, you have to run that shit through 14 different corporate masters.
Yeah.
And I feel like they all feel kind of bland to me now.
Well, I'll say one thing. I feel like Treyarch, who made Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 2 and Black Ops, I feel like they took a step back with the campaign in this game. I mean, compared to Black Ops 2, where, again, you had these few pivotal decisions that you made that actually sent the story off in a different direction. Mm-hmm. There was a lot more gameplay variety in the campaign for Black Ops 2, like I mentioned earlier. They had those, crazy, strategy sections. Did you play any of those?
I played a very little Black Ops 2, but I remember the strategy stuff and kind of
and they didn't nail it.
And the UAV stuff you could do.
Yeah.
And all that.
They didn't nail that part of it, but it was still kind of fun and a nice diversion to kind of get away from just shooting people in the face for 6 hours. One thing I do really respect about Treyarch is how you can never say a Treyarch Call of Duty doesn't give you content for your money. Oh, it's insane.
It's insane. Those games full of so much stuff, even before you start getting into the paid DLC.
Yeah.
They definitely pack those games full of stuff to do.
Well, yeah, it came out that they once again hid that twin stick shooter arcade game in there, and that was in Black Ops 2 as well. Obviously, there's the zombies mode, which everybody knows about. But then the campaign, if you finish it and then you go back, it turns into this different kind of playthrough, and then they have the co-op for pretty much everything. You can play the campaign in co-op. You can play zombies, obviously, in co-op.
You think they're ever going to just is this series eventually leading to Black Ops Zombie Apocalypse?
I don't know.
Will they finally just go ahead and make the zombie game?
I mean, a lot of people have been asking for them to release a zombie mode separately from all the other modes, and they have people pay $20 for it or whatever. But I don't think they'll ever do that because they want you to buy.
I feel like that's splitting the brand.
It totally does, and I also don't think they'll ever do just a straight up Call of Duty Zombies game. I just don't see it happening.
It seems too far afield.
I mean, look, they've been spreading their wings a little bit over the last couple releases. I mean, they're so far into the future now that it's turned into a sci-fi game more than a first-person shooter. It almost feels like I'm watching a Michael Bay movie, or I've always felt like you're watching a Michael Bay movie.
Yeah, but it's starting to feel like eventually, if this keeps going, they're going to link up with Titanfall
Transformers
in a weird way.
Or that's what's going to happen. They're going to end up they're gonna like storm into a Transformers movie set, and the two franchises are just gonna fuse together into one mega beast.
Activision does have the Transformers license.
That's what I'm saying.
Can you imagine that? How
crazy would that be?
It's like equal parts stupid and perfect
and awesome. Imagine the press they would get if they did that. Yeah. If like the new old Russian was like, oh my God, there's the Transformers.
Yeah.
And I will say the campaign in this game...
Can you imagine the trailer reveal for that?
Oh
like
my God.
E3,
It would go nuclear.
Where suddenly Optimus Prime just transforms in front of like Captain Price or something.
I just gave them the best idea ever.
Yeah, there you go, Activision.
We do that on this show. We just give away these billion dollar ideas for Call of Duty, basically.
If you do that in the same year as a Michael Bay Transformers movie, gold.
Yeah, for sure.
Gold. And you don't have to make High Moon make one of those like horrible movie tie-in games.
Yeah, or Platinum for that matter.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about the campaign in Black Ops 3 is that it does kind of go for the shock value again. Like, there's nothing quite as bad as No Russian, but there's some pretty gnarly stuff in the campaign.
Yeah, I heard there's some things with robots that are a little questionable.
Oh, for sure. Like, they push the boundaries, which Treyarch kind of does that.
Yeah.
And Black Ops 2 had some pretty off-the-cuff stuff, but again, nothing as bad as No Russian, but it gets close in this game. And I like that. They are kind of a cultural touch point, whether we want to admit it or not. Like, a new Call of Duty game is something that everyone talks about. And it's one of those forms of media that can be used as like a Trojan horse to the wider people who consume.
I'm interested in like who does, because like I gotta admit, like none of my casual gamer friends like ask me about game stuff.
Yeah.
None of them are playing or have even mentioned Black Ops 3.
Oh, really?
But I bet you can guess what they are talking about.
Fallout.
No.
Tomb Raider.
Next week.
Oh.
Everybody's talking about Battlefront.
Yeah.
So, do I think that that's going to like outlast Black Ops 3? Probably not in terms of people who hardcore play the game every night.
Yeah, no way.
But like the casual market is like Battlefront right now. They're like, is it good? Is it good? Like everybody is like, oh, I've seen this thing.
Because it's new.
It's new, and it's Star Wars, and Star Wars.
To them, it's like brand new. Like they don't probably even know that the other Battlefronts exist.
Well, dude, like we forget that like we're so plugged into these things. Sorry, GeForce Slug plugged in. But like it was a few weeks ago. I was at like football. I might have mentioned this before. I was at football and on Sunday, and the next day was the day that like the new Star Wars trailer was going up on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
And like two people in the group watching the game had no idea a new Star Wars movie was coming out this year. Like, people don't fucking pay attention to this stuff. Like, we're total dorks.
Oh,
like,
I know.
we're the
I've
only
known that
ones
forever, Matt.
we're the only ones who pay attention to this shit.
Is this a new revelation for you, Matt? We're dorks, we're nerds?
But we forget that, like, we know about it. Even, like, most people find out about these things, like, the month before they come out when they start running the commercials.
The marketing,
on primetime shows and the NFL games.
That's why advertising on NFL games and primetime TV is so expensive. Because that's how you reach those people who make your game from a hit to a mega hit. So, so I've been enjoying Black Ops 3, and I do enjoy Call of Duty. I generally play it every year. I will say that I didn't play Ghost hardly at all. Literally hardly at all. I think I never even got to like level 20 in Ghost multiplayer before I bailed on it.
You really don't like that game.
I don't at all. I thought it was the worst Call of Duty probably ever, in all honesty. Other than like the handheld versions.
I do own it, but I've never opened it. I paid $5 for it.
That's what it's worth, pretty much. Like it's the worst Call of Duty, console Call of Duty, in my opinion, of all of them. So. But Advanced Warfare, I did play the crap out of. Like, I prestiged in Advanced Warfare and, like, probably stuck with it 2 months after it was out. Just kind of like that game that I pick up and play when I had a spare minute here or there. Black Ops 3, man, I'm playing it, and I'm not sick of it. I haven't prestiged yet. But, I feel like it is... One is the campaign, like I said, was a step back for Treyarch. And then I feel like the multiplayer is a step back in general for the series. Like, I just feel like taking away that traversal that we had in the last game, it just feels like...
Last game being Advanced Warfare.
Advanced Warfare. Yeah. I just feel like there's all these skills that you learned in Advanced Warfare, and now they're just, like, atrophying. Like, it just... Taking stuff away, I just don't think is ever the right decision, particularly with a game like this. It's like once you've kind of established that, and look, the crossover between Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 3. It's the same audience. It's not like Treyarch has an audience and Sledgehammer or whoever has an audience. It's like, it's all Call of Duty. And
right. Most people don't even know that they're made by different people.
no, they're just like, it's the next Call of Duty game. And so I think that was a mistake to take away stuff. Like Treyarch, I feel like is smart enough that they could have actually enhanced what was done in Advanced Warfare and made it even better, or just fine-tuned it or whatever. So
you wonder how much of that is just like production time lag over, how far along was Treyarch by the time Advanced Warfare was.
Well, they're on a 3-year cycle now. They had a lot. That's the thing. Like, they had a lot more time to make this game too, and still, I feel like the gameplay is a pretty significant step back. But again, I am enjoying it, and
I'm just really curious about like the internal politics of that kind of thing, because there was certainly internal politics between the old Infinity Ward and Treyarch and Activision. But I wonder if
they're not even internal politics at this
anymore.
point.
Now they're public record. But but you got to wonder, like, does Treyarch feel like, maybe Sledgehammer was it Sledgehammer in Advanced Warfare?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they did, their version of things, and maybe Treyarch's like, it's too much. Like, this is what, we want to do it like this. Like, so maybe they have like differing philosophies, and they're kind of allowed
One
to
thing I will say
ideas.
is that there's still like 10 million people a month, I believe it is, playing Black Ops 2 online. And it came out like 5 years ago or something. So
Treyarch might be onto something.
I'm saying Treyarch knows what it's doing.
What they're doing.
And Treyarch makes great games. Like, the quality level in Black Ops 3, it's top shelf, man. Like, you don't see like glitch videos from like Black Ops games or Call of Duty games.
Better than Halo?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, and I guess that's part of my point too that I wanted to make, is that I feel like Black Ops 3 is better than Halo 5. Like, I am enjoying it more. I know I'm going to play it longer. And I think
I have not played Black Ops 3, but I have no problem believing it's better than Halo 5.
Yeah, I mean, and look, Halo 5 has actually grown on me a little bit. The multiplayer has since launch and since I did the game eval for it.
I really found the Warzone stuff distasteful to me because of the
Big Team Battle comes next week. By the way,
Big Team Battle I'm into. I'll come back. I mean, it's right now it's all Battlefront and Fallout and everything, and then Thanksgiving, and then so I don't know if I'll jump into Big Team Battle immediately, but I think in December. Especially if I don't get a Wii U on Black Friday, I will probably go back to Big Team Battle and give it another shot. But like the Warzone stuff, I just felt, and maybe I'm missing something, but like there were points where like the other team would play like a bunch of Scorpion tank cards, and my team had nothing to counter that with, so we just had to kind of sit there while they rolled over us in Scorpions. And at a certain point, it's just like, so these guys all were willing to spend like $3 on gold packs, and we weren't. So.
Well, I think the other thing, too, that you can see when comparing Black Ops 3 to Halo 5 is like, okay, you had two teams here who were given several years to make the game. Like, neither team was rushed and had to put it out in a year or 2 years. Black Ops 3 is a higher quality game. Like, it shows to me that, Treyarch is probably a better studio than 343. And granted, 343 hasn't been around anywhere near as long as Treyarch has, but not even just like the quality, but just the amount of game there.
Well, also,
there's no comparison.
Does Black Ops 3's campaign... Have you finished the campaign?
I have, yeah.
So does Black Ops 3's campaign have a beginning, a middle, and end?
What do you mean?
Like
Act 1, Act 2, Act 3? Yeah.
Because like...
Black Ops does that,
right, but like
it's made by Hollywood people.
But Halo doesn't have that.
No.
Halo's just one long, dragged-out Act 1.
It really is, you're right.
And so like right there, like that's a better...
That is one advantage to having people who work on films consult on a game. Is that they get like the basic tenets of storytelling. Is that there's 3 acts in a play or a film or a musical, and there's a reason for that. It's the way the human brain.
I mean, I may not have like totally liked the story in Black Ops 1 or whatever, but like at least I didn't think the ending, like with Halo 5, I felt the end. What happens at the end of Halo 5 should have happened at like Mission 4,
right?
And the rest of the game should have been about the fallout from that.
Yeah,
and like. At least the Black Ops games seem to kind of like give you some meat to the story.
Yeah.
They tell a complete arc of a story from beginning to end. And
there's not just one twist in their stories.
Yeah.
Which is like how Halo was. It's like, oh, here's the twist. Like.
Yeah, it's funny that like people seem to like take all those twists in kind of stride now, whereas originally I remember when Infinity Ward first started that series, it was like, I can't believe they killed my Marine guy. I can't believe they EMP'd the East Coast. I can't believe Russia invaded America. It was they were really willing to like go crazy. I can't believe you just had me shoot Fidel Castro in the face. Like it's like
Well, a lot of it is because really Infinity Ward is the one who still concentrates on keeping that consistent story from one to the next. Whereas like Black Ops and like Advanced Warfare kind of
Black Ops is more of like a theme carried over.
Exactly.
Although there's characters that are consistent.
There are,
through them.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, as far as like the plot, like it seems like it stays more consistent with the games that Infinity Ward makes. So.
Yeah, Modern Warfare is like a trilogy.
Right.
Whereas like Black Ops is more like
here's the same guy.
Conspiracy, crazy shit centered around one dude through the years.
Right, yeah. He just seems to stumble upon one weird conspiracy after another.
Some people got all the luck.
Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, comparing it to Halo 5, I say Black Ops 3 is the better game, period. Now, obviously, the next game on the horizon here, you had mentioned earlier, Star Wars Battlefront coming out next week. And this one I think may be a little tougher to figure out which is better. Because, look, I did play a ton of the beta for Battlefront. I feel like I have a good handle on how the game plays. Obviously, the modes were very limited. And I feel like modes in this game maybe make a bigger difference than in a lot of other shooters.
Yeah, there's a lot of different modes, and some of them are very, very
Well, there's vehicles in this,
yeah,
which
the
Black Ops still
mode,
doesn't
sure.
have vehicles per se.
Yeah, well, I remember when Treyarch tried vehicles and it didn't work out so well. So
Yeah.
World at War was...
Yeah.
But Battlefront is going to be a very different beast. I think it's a much simpler game in a lot of ways. You know, I don't know if the depth is there to capture the people who make Black Ops kind of a constant presence in the online scape.
The people who are making a ton of money streaming Call of Duty are not going to stick with Battlefront, I don't think.
And I mean, Battlefront, I can see myself playing a lot more because I love Star Wars and. I love that's the other thing is Battlefield has always captured my imagination more than Call of Duty in general because it has the vehicles, it has the scale,
it makes
has
a big
the scope.
difference. Yeah,
and I find that more interesting. I'm not saying it's inherently better. It's just what I'm more interested
prefer.
in.
Yeah.
And so once you make, and if you make that helicopter, that F-16 into an X-wing, now you got my attention twice.
Yeah.
So, but it's going to be interesting to see if, the game is clearly made for Star Wars fans more than gamers.
Yeah.
I think, it's meant to pull in people who maybe haven't played a Star Wars game in 10 years. Or something, And
they're going to hate it though.
I know. I think
they're going to get their butts kicked.
To some degree, yeah.
To every degree, Matt.
Well, we'll see. I mean,
they're going to get their asses handed to them.
I think you were playing against much better people than I was in that beta.
Really?
Yeah, I was number one, constantly. I mean, and I'm not.
I wasn't at all. I finished around even or a little over pretty much every game. There were a couple games where I got I was 20-5 or whatever, but for the most part,
I was getting that constantly.
Really?
And I was I don't know. I'm not a first-person shooter savant by any means, but I was just ripping people apart. Part of it was because people didn't realize that aiming down the sights doesn't affect your aim quality. It's purely visual. So some guy who's trying to carefully aim at me Call of Duty style, I still have the same accuracy if I'm just circle strafing like a crazy person in Quake.
Firing,
So eventually people are going to have to learn, because the only thing that aiming down sights does for you in a close combat situation in Battlefront is it halves your speed, which makes you a lot easier for me to shoot.
Yeah, exactly.
So people are going to have to learn that, and I had to unlearn it too, because
I think some people would scope in for headshots though.
Oh yeah, it helps for that, but I'm talking about people were doing the Call of Duty thing where as soon as you see someone, you scope in because you're more accurate, and then you can take them out in the head, and because that's how you win basically.
Yeah.
And in Battlefront, that doesn't help you, so it's going to be a little bit of relearning. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see. I think it's possible that the hardcore crowd will just kind of gravitate back to Call of Duty or whatever.
I think that's exactly.
And the casuals will just keep playing.
Yeah.
But I don't know how long a casual keeps playing something like that.
It depends on how bad they're getting their butts kicked.
True.
I think that's the quotient there.
But the trick is, they've got a lot of there's tutorial stuff in there we weren't able to access in the beta, so we'll see if that helps you. Because clearly something in there needs to explain to people how you play the Walker Assault.
Yeah, for sure.
The rebels didn't get it most of the time, and the thing about, like you said, all the different modes. I think the advantage Battlefront has is if someone's getting their ass kicked in one particular thing, they can go do something else.
Well, I mean, they can do that in Black Ops 3. There's a million other things to do in Black Ops 3.
But
that to me is the detriment of Battlefront, is that all you really have is head-to-head multiplayer. You don't have.
Oh, that's not true. You have the horde mode stuff. You have the fighter squadron stuff. You have very different takes on them. The Walker Assault is very different from the standard team deathmatch. You have the hero mode thing where you have to kill the hero versus I
want to see casual people playing Walker Assault.
I think it would be very interesting.
It's
Well, that's the thing. Is
debacle.
like, they need to have a thing that explains how
Like,
that works
big
because the
time,
beta
yeah.
didn't, and
Yeah.
even like even people that were clearly like real hardline gamers like were having trouble figuring out on the Rebel side. Well, because the other problem with that is like both sides don't have to figure it out.
Yeah.
If the Rebels don't figure it out, they lose. If the Imperials don't figure it out, the Walkers just like go to win. It's like if both sides had to do a thing to succeed, you would see people figure it out quicker because like otherwise no one would make any progress.
Here's what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to do really well. It's going to sell like
It's
crazy.
going to sell copies
It's going
like
to sell
crazy.
like crazy. But I think what you're going to see is, and I think a lot of it will depend on DLC and the schedule of the DLC. But I think you're going to see really strong first like 2-3 months because it's coming out like next week. It'll have a huge November. It'll have a huge December because once the flick comes out and people are like all geeking out over Star Wars, everyone's going to go buy this game.
Well, especially because they're going to have the free DLC with Jakku from the new movie in it.
Yep. And then so people will get it for Christmas then. And then that next month, all the way through January, I feel like it's going to be huge. And I think right around January is where you're going to start to see the decline.
I think right around there is exactly where they need to put the first major DLC pack out.
They do. And they're messaging that to casual people who are going to be buying this game might be a challenge.
Well, I think I'm sure the game itself will have, like every game almost now with an online component has that, that stupid splash screen that hits you in the face with what's new.
Yeah.
Every time you log in.
But
DICE does really robust DLC expansions.
It does, yeah, for
so
sure.
If they can get that done in time to sort of hit that lull before it becomes critical mass, I think you'll have a nice flow through there. But again, we don't know. They haven't said anything about their DLC plans.
I mean, look, the game could change over time. Like, they could make the gameplay more nuanced over time. Like, if they start to see that they're bleeding players, they could start making changes to make it more palatable to that Call of Duty audience. But if they don't do that, what I see happening is at the end of January, you start to see the gradual curve of the people weaning off of that. And I think they'll slide over and start playing Black Ops 3. And as far as like this game, like looking at Black Ops 2, how there's still 10 million people playing it 5 years later, do I think that'll happen with this game? No, I don't really think it will.
Although, it's not as big as Black Ops 2, obviously, but you can still, for a long time, you can still log on and find people playing Battlefront 2.
Really?
Battlefront 2 stayed
well, it could
active.
be a case, too, where if the hardcore start leaving Battlefront, it could make it actually more appealing to the casual people because they're not getting their asses handed to them constantly.
If it becomes kind of this weird casual paradise.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes, But
aren't we supposed to think that like only casuals play Call of Duty anyway?
Which is totally bull crap.
But isn't that what we're supposed to think?
Right.
Because it's all just bros.
Because I think at this point the only genre that's hardcore is like RPGs. I think that's like the last genre that like the otaku are like, yeah, you got to play this if you're hardcore. It's like whatever.
What, MOBAs?
No,
MOBAs
I don't think.
count?
I think MOBAs. I think people who play MOBAs are considered like dude bros. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I can't even handle MOBAs.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's the same thing we're saying about Call of Duty. Like all these people who say,
I can't
people who play Call of Duty are they'll go into the game and get their asses kicked. Like,
I don't think of MOBA players as like casuals. I think of them as like crazy children. It's just like I don't get MOBAs not because like I'm too hardcore. I don't get MOBAs because I'm old.
MOBAs, I feel like are the most mainstream genre right now, in my opinion.
I don't see how you could defend that.
Really?
In terms of like number of people who play it, absolutely, it's totally
No.
mainstream.
You don't understand, Matt. Like things have completely changed. Like if you are a good League of Legends player in like high school now, like you're getting girls, dude. Like that's how things have changed. Like not just getting girls, like swatting them off of you. Like,
does that count mainstream though?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Like Matt, since we were in high school has changed a lot.
Well, I get that.
It's not all about like the jocks walking around like beating up the nerds anymore. That's not how it works.
I know that. It wasn't like that when I was there, frankly. But like, what I'm saying is like maybe I don't think I can consider it mainstream until the ESPN like guys stop making fun of it.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's the most mainstream genre.
It's
right
coming.
Now. League of Legends is like the game that like people play.
Well, it's definitely the biggest game on the planet, for sure. But I don't know if that makes it non-nerd. You know?
I mean, as far as playing it, like, you have to be hardcore to play that game.
Oh, yeah.
No ifs or ands or buts about it. So,
Well, it's your job,
Yeah.
basically. If you're good at it, if you're really doing it, it's your job.
the times are changing. It's good. It's good to see that, you know, people who are good at video games have, like, some clout in high school. Like, I love seeing that, man. It's like...
Well, I saw some it was a few years ago, but it was basically a study on, like, gaming and all that, and, like, of, like, young kids. It was, like, you know, 5 to 7 or 8, I think. And basically, if a kid didn't play video games, they were more likely to be ostracized by their peers because it was like not watching football or not watching, like, the hot news TV show when we were kids. You had nothing to talk about with your peers.
Yeah.
And, like,
I see that totally.
So the kids who don't play games are the weird ones now.
Yeah, I get it. I believe it.
Yeah.
It's good to see.
Yeah.
All right, it's time to. I would just cap that by saying, you know, I have played a good bit of Battlefront, and obviously I've played a ton of Halo 5. I've played a ton of Black Ops 3, and I do think the best shooter of the year, in my opinion, is Black Ops 3. So, if somebody asked me which one of the three to buy for a long-term value and what they're going to get the most out of, and they're a decent player, I would say Black Ops 3. But we'll see. Maybe all these other modes will change my mind about Battlefront. But based upon what I played right now, that's my opinion anyway. So let's move on to the next topic. So over this past weekend, BlizzCon happened, Matt.
So I hear.
Yeah. I mean, that's the point. It's like, so I hear. Like, there wasn't really any huge stories coming out of BlizzCon this year. No big game announcements.
Are there any huge stories coming out of Blizzard in general anymore?
Well, I mean, someone would say Heroes of the Storm when it was announced was a big deal. I mean...
I don't know, man. I hate to channel Marcus on this, but, like, when it comes to the Blizzard stuff, I just don't care.
Really?
Like, none of it. I mean, I'm kind of mildly interested in StarCraft 2 just because I want to see how that story ends.
Yeah.
After all these years, but it's just not. I mean, I'm not in a Hearthstone. I'm not in a
So
Heroes of the
Overwatch
Storm.
is their new game.
Yeah.
Yeah. That you're not interested in Overwatch at all? Really?
No. I think it's interesting that they're making it because it's such a departure for Blizzard.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, a competitive multiplayer shooter is not what you expect from that company.
It's getting really good impressions from its beta. Lots of positive feedback.
But also remember that I don't really care about competitive, you know, shooter multiplayer very much.
Yeah.
So it's not up my alley to begin with. But if, you know, eventually I'll probably try it because eventually it looks like this is like the next big thing. So you're going to have to be literate in it at least.
Well, I think the problem is that it looks like too many other games.
Yeah.
Like, there's a game by Splash Damage called Dirty Bomb that kind of looks like it. You have Gearbox's.
Yeah, I kept confusing this with Gearbox's game for a while, and also with Cliffy's game.
Yeah, you're right. Project Blue Streak. What's it called? Lawbreakers.
Lawbreakers, yeah.
Lawbreakers looks a little bit like this. It's like they're all kind of starting to bleed together a little bit. But so the big deal, I guess, the big announcement that was made, I don't even know if it was an announcement, but for some reason, everybody had assumed that this game was going to be free to play. I don't know why. Like, I had assumed it as well, but it turns out it's not.
Free to play
right?
now.
Especially games that look like this.
Yeah.
Like Cliffy's game is free to play.
Like, it looks
Dirty
like Team
Bomb
Fortress,
is free to
so
play.
you're just sort of like, it must be free.
Yeah, so it's not. And the other caveat to that is that the PC version is going to be $40, but then the console version is going to be $60. And apparently there's like some expansion packs or something that they're going to include in the console versions to rationalize the extra $20, but I don't know. It's kind of weird for everyone to assume something's going to be free. Imagine how Blizzard felt when everyone was like, "This game's going to be free."
This game looks like it should cost nothing.
Exactly.
That's what right? You're not going
Exactly. And they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, we're actually charging full price for this thing." So that was one of the big announcements for Overwatch. They also showed off 3 new characters for the game.
I'm curious if I'm curious if a console release for something like that is particularly wise. Because that kind of game doesn't seem to do very well on consoles.
I mean, look...
I keep thinking about that Shadowrun game.
Yeah.
Or, frankly, even Evolve.
Yeah. I mean, Evolve made its money and then some, though. I mean, its community just
But
died
it's kind
really
of
quickly.
over, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, if there's an Evolve 2, I don't know if it would do as well as Evolve 1.
True.
I mean, I think a lot of people bought into the concept without ever trying it. And once they tried it, they're like, wait a minute, I'm just chasing this dude around.
Get back here, giant monster.
Really
Where are you going?
Worked. That's how that whole game was. I felt like I was always chasing and never in combat in that game.
But again, full price, multiplayer only kind of thing. Like,
I mean, we're getting that with Battlefront, but obviously Battlefront's huge property and vehicles and everything. This is pretty much just a straight up
Star Wars
class-based
kind of like,
shooter.
Star Wars makes you a little immune to a lot of the pitfalls of that, whereas like you don't already have an attachment to this property, so where's the hook? Yeah. More importantly, where's the $60 hook?
Right. For a multiplayer-only game, that's a tough sell. Because even if you look at like... with Call of Duty this year, they're not putting out the campaign on last gen, so they dropped the price a little bit. Like $40 seems right, and on PC it is $40, but you go to up to $60.
And there'll be deals, and there'll be things. You'll be able to get it for whatever price you feel you want to pay on PC, probably. Yeah. Whereas console, you're gonna be locked into that $60. Maybe you'll get like a some kind of deal on something. So every periodically you get maybe 40. You might be able to get it for 40, and then within 3 months, if you get like the right sale day or something.
Yep.
But basically, you're locked into that price, and hopefully word of mouth is good.
Coming out next year, everyone kind of thought it was coming out maybe earlier this year. I think it was delayed like 2 months ago to next year, and now it's like the middle of next year, which is kind of crazy. I mean, Blizzard does take its time with its games, but wow, for a multiplayer-only shooter.
I just don't really see anything. As someone who's only kind of mildly interested in that genre, like, I don't see anything in that footage that makes me like, oh, I gotta play this.
No, agree 1,000%. So, one of the other games that they talked about, World of Warcraft Legion, which is really weird for them to promote it this early because it's not coming out until like middle to late next year. Mm-hmm. And
it's sort of like Warcraft with the movie trailer hitting and everything. I guess it's like time for Warcraft again.
I mean, they put out the CG trailer, which is usually like the launch trailer for World of Warcraft expansions.
I bet we'll get another one, though.
Probably, but I was still pretty shocked to see them promoting this. I mean, there's been all this negative press recently about, them dropping subscribers, and they said they're not going to share subscriber numbers ever again. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I guess if it's not good news, you don't want to share it.
Well, it's all downhill from here, really. Yeah. You're never gonna climb up again, I don't think, in a subscription-based MMO. So
yeah, I mean, we talked about that in the show last week about kind of the death of the subscription in MMOs. So I don't know. So there's a new class called the Demon Hunter.
Yep.
Does that do anything for you?
I mean,
how do they come up with new classes at this point? They've made so many of them, like...
I think you just start mixing and matching the Demon Hunter.
At what point does everything just turn brown? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if we're mixing everything together so much, and to where they're all just the same.
You're just mud mixing at this point,
right.
As Bob Ross would say.
Yeah.
We don't want to be mud mixers. Yeah. But Demon Hunter is also a class in Diablo 3, so maybe you just lift it from there. You start, mixing and matching from here and there. Maybe you start bringing in Space Marines. I don't know,
I don't know, that don't make much sense.
Well, at a certain point, you're like, what's the next World of Warcraft expansion? It's about time for that StarCraft crossover, right? Like, who cares?
Yeah. So you get that new class. You get a level cap of 110.
Yeah.
Which, again, like, that's what they do every time. Yeah. It's like you just keep going up 10 with every expansion.
Yeah. Have another couple of talents.
Yeah.
Whatever they use now, I don't know.
And then, like, 6 new zones that were based on the last expansion, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I wasn't clear on that. I haven't played World of Warcraft since Cataclysm, so I've missed Pandaria and Draenor. So I'm not really sure what the state of the game is because, like we talked about last week, like periodically I've kind of I'll go back to MMOs I've played before to sort of see how they've evolved and what's happened. But like the fact that most of those MMOs are free to play,
makes it a lot easier
to just log in and see. Yeah. Whereas like Warcraft, I got to throw like $15 down just to see my characters again, and I just never do it.
Yeah, not worth it. So I don't know. It seemed a little early to me for them to be releasing so much information.
It is pretty weird. That's a shockingly fast turnaround.
They don't do it. I mean, they just don't do it that way usually, which I feel like shows maybe a little bit of their desperation.
Or maybe they just had a really good idea. I don't
know.
I admit but also I'm sure part of it is like they're hoping that the World of Warcraft movie next year is going to really spark new interest or renewed interest maybe in the game, and they want to have
that bumper marketing off
some big new content ready to go in the second half of the year for that. I mean, I would guess this is what second half of 2016. Yeah. So I'll put money down. Well, maybe I won't put money down, but I'll bet you that expansion comes out the same day as the movie comes out on Blu-ray.
That makes a lot of sense.
And I bet the movie on Blu-ray comes with like a play for 2 weeks
a month for
thing.
free. Yeah, some kind of coupon you get in there with a code where you can play for free for 2 months or something like that. Would not surprise me at all. So they also announced something new for Hearthstone. It's a new single-player portion of Hearthstone. Basically, it's like an Indiana Jones type aesthetic with like jungles and things like that. Do you play Hearthstone?
I played it briefly, but card games and me aren't really a thing. Especially like early. I mean, I'm sure it's better now, but early on, it was like that thing where like people had like the couple different ways where you could just sort of pin someone down and just fireball them to death, and there's nothing they could do. It was all in one turn.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, screw this. Like, I don't want to do that to myself anymore. I thought it was beautiful. I really liked how it looked. It was very pretty.
Yeah, there's like 45 new cards, a couple new boss fights. I think it comes out like tomorrow?
Maybe.
I know they announced it 5 days before, whereas usually they announce everything 5 weeks before. So Blizzard tried a new strategy with the Hearthstone edition. I don't play Hearthstone either. I've played it just because I felt like I needed to play it to see what's up, so I have a frame of reference so I can talk about games intelligently. But I've not personally spent a ton of time playing the game.
Yeah,
so.
I didn't play a ton. I mean, probably played maybe 10 hours total, maybe. It was fine. I just never. It was one of those. It's one of those mobile games that, like, a lot of mobile games. I sort of like play it for a while and then I put it down one day and I just never open it again.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Because there's too much to play.
Yeah,
You got to prioritize everything.
But
it's tough, especially right now. It's like there's so many big games coming out. Like,
I will say that Hearthstone reminded me of how much I like Blizzard's aesthetic.
Yeah, I agree.
Like,
just
their art style, their character design, their menu design, like all of it is just
it is
like
consistent
top-notch.
across all their brands.
They've got
all their
style,
brands
for sure.
Like even Heroes of the Storm. Like you play their MOBA, and you can totally tell it's their game.
It's got that bright kind of. It's bright and colorful, but it's not like weird and rainbowy.
I don't even know how to explain what it is.
And even Diablo
That's
3 has
good.
Yeah, it's friendly.
Yeah.
It's friendly.
Yep. And so StarCraft 2, they actually did have a pretty big announcement for StarCraft 2. So everyone was wondering, like, what's going to happen after this, the expansion I think just came. Did it come out today, too?
Yeah, it came out.
It just came out today.
So you're basically like, I mean, that's, everybody thought, like, that's the end of StarCraft.
Yeah.
Like, no more StarCraft. Maybe StarCraft 3, like, in 2025.
But
like,
nope.
They had another thing up their sleeve.
Yep, and so basically...
And a blast of the past.
Yeah.
At that.
So Nova, who was going to be the lead protagonist in StarCraft Ghosts, which was like an action-adventure shooter for... That was like PlayStation 2 and Xbox.
Yeah, that was
a long time ago.
First half of last decade.
Yep, so they have kind of caved a little bit to fan demand, because people are still asking for Ghosts, by the way. It's like...
Well, it was never officially canceled. It was just put on hold.
Which is what Blizzard always does. Like
a lot of people do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, guys.
So basically, they're going to continue StarCraft 2 through this. I guess they release a few missions at a time. They're called Nova Covert Ops. And they're going to basically stretch out the story, stretch out the legs of StarCraft 2 a little bit so it remains relevant. I mean, there's no way they're going... I knew something like this was going to happen. I felt like there was no way they're going to close the door on that revenue stream, particularly with the subs of World of Warcraft and a downward trend. And this is what they've come up with. Basically, this was going to be a protagonist for Ghosts is now going to be leading the charge for StarCraft 2 content going forward. And I think the first missions come out next year, middle of next year, early next year. I can't quite remember.
Sounds right. I have honestly really only glanced at BlizzCon as it's happened.
Yeah. Well, like I said, BlizzCon. This is like... It was not
no insult to BlizzCon on my end, just because I was too busy this weekend with another thing I'm working on to look at it.
But I could just see where if you're just kind of glancing at the industry while you're working on something else, why you wouldn't pick up on anything, because there was no big story. Everyone was like, "Oh my god!" Like
if you're into any of these individual games, it was big news for you.
Right.
It wasn't like industry shaking things.
And like the only other thing they mentioned that's even worth mentioning here on GameFace is Heroes of the Storm. They showed off like 3 new characters in a new mode. The new mode is called Arena Mode. And basically what Arena Mode is you don't get to pick your character. Like it gives you like a list you can pick from, or it randomly selects characters, and you just get thrown into like a 5-minute melee against another team. And it's like the best of 3 rounds or whatever. So it's really like a battle royale MOBA, I guess is the best way to put it. But honestly, the coolest news that came out maybe of all of BlizzCon is that one of the new characters for Heroes of the Storm, it's like a 2-headed character, and 2 players can cooperatively play as that character. Which sounds like crazy, right? You're like, oh, that just makes a really complicated genre even more complicated. But it actually makes it easier for people to play. It's like actually a good way for people to learn how to play, because one person controls one element of the character, another person controls another element. So you don't have to like, it's like chewing gum and rubbing your belly. You only have to do one of them at a time. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Heroes of the Storm. I played it in the beta. As soon as it went out of beta, I played it like one more time, and I never went back and played it again. When I play MOBAs, I've just settled in with League of Legends at this point. Like, the genre is so crazy that you just can't really play multiple ones and be competitive at it. So at this point, I pretty much just settled in on League of Legends. I haven't played this, like I said, since the beta. So it is doing well. It seems to be generating a lot of money for Blizzard, which is good. And it's good to see that Blizzard's not resting on its laurels and it's pushing it forward. But again, yeah, I mean, overall, I'd just say BlizzCon was just kind of BlizzCon.
Well, every year can't be a winner, I guess.
They haven't had a huge BlizzCon in a while, though. I mean, I think last year they announced Overwatch, right? Was it last year?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it was. And that was a big deal. Like, people freaked out over that at first, but now people have kind of, like, forgotten about it.
Well, what do you think the next what could Blizzard announce that would be, like, world-shaking at this point?
Well, see, yeah, it's tough, because Overwatch did kind of do the Blizzard thing and introduce this whole new universe with all these very distinct characters. And, like, look, I'm sure the characters of Overwatch will eventually be brought into other games and kind of what they're doing with their stuff now. So I think that's why people were excited. It was like the first glimpse at a new Blizzard universe and all the characters that were going to live in that universe. And, now everyone knows most of the characters. They did announce a few more, but kind of the cat's out of the bag now, and the proof will...
universe that doesn't seem to have been a universe that doesn't seem to have been lifted from a Games Workshop property.
Yeah, exactly. And just use one more cliche. Ultimately, the proof will be in the pudding. Either Overwatch is going to be good or it's going to be bad, and that will determine what kind of longevity those characters have.
Yeah.
So
I'm interested in it in Overwatch in the sense that like Blizzard's never made anything like that before.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how it turns out.
And I also can't remember the last time Blizzard made a bad game.
Well, yeah, I don't. Well, I know there's people who would say the initial release of Diablo 3 would qualify.
Bad though? It wasn't up to their spec.
It was Blizzard bad, maybe.
Right,
which
but
is
that's
still like better than
poor man's great.
Yeah. Still better than most people ever manage.
Exactly.
But,
so I don't know. It seemed like
and Diablo 3 has become great.
It has, yeah, and that's what Blizzard does. If it's not perfect, it gets it to perfect eventually. Yeah. So overall, kind of a lukewarm BlizzCon.
Yeah, but they're doing what they're doing. They're keeping on. And next year, next year's going to be really interesting for Blizzard because I don't think that Warcraft movie is going to do well.
Really?
No.
I think it will.
I don't. I think it's. Well,
I guess you may be right because
it's a CG movie that's not really targeted towards children, and no one really knows to make of it. And that trailer was the most generic fantasy stuff you could imagine, and fantasy movies do not do well.
Wait, here's what I'll say. So one thing I will guarantee is pretty much anyone who ever played World of Warcraft will go see the movie. Would you agree to that?
No.
Really?
I played World of Warcraft, and I don't have any interest in seeing it.
You're not going to go see that movie?
I mean, I might if we have
You're going to go see it.
If we have to talk about it, but I don't care about it.
Really? I think I might even go see it, and I hate World of Warcraft.
I don't see... I never cared that much about the lore to begin with,
Really?
and looking at that, just like if it wasn't Blizzard, if it wasn't Warcraft, I would just look at that and be like, oh, generic fantasy, who cares?
I'm surprised to hear that. You go to a lot of movies.
I do go to a lot of
happen
movies.
to think that most people who have played World of Warcraft will go see it, just because. So you figure that's 15 million people, and you figure a movie ticket's $10. The movie's going to make at least $150 million. I think. Yeah, I think it will. It'll end up making money, and they'll end up making a sequel.
I think it's going to make about $25 million opening weekend. And
Really?
peter off from there.
Yeah. I don't think so.
I'll have a better idea of it once.
We should bet on that.
Once we get
let's pick an over/under.
Why not?
20 million?
I want to see more of like the run up and the kind of the press approach and how they start to market it as it gets closer to launch. But I don't see that thing competing too well in the very crowded blockbuster realm of next year. Next year is big movie shit.
Every year is though.
Yeah, but next year in particular, you've got Captain America, Civil War coming up. You've got some DC stuff coming up earlier on. I mean, it is a packed March through August. And I just don't know. And that's the thing is the CG movies usually do really well, even like the ones that you think are going to be terrible, like do real well. but they do real well because families go to see them, and that's like usually like 4 tickets sold, you know, and like you've got all the kids and everybody wants to see. But Warcraft is targeting
actually,
a different
if you think
group.
about World of Warcraft, though, I was completely calculating it wrong because I'm saying there was more than 15 million people that ever played it. Like that was just its peak of concurrent subscribers.
But I don't think all 15 million of those people liked it.
If they paid to play it, I think they did.
Well, just because you pay 1 month, you're like, oh, this sucks, cancel.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to make money.
I don't know how much it cost. That's the thing, is I don't know what the budget was.
I could imagine. I would imagine it's not over $100 million.
100 million is probably 100 to 150 million is probably reasonable.
Yeah.
But again, remember, you have to double the budget to really be
For
profitable.
marketing, right? Yeah.
Especially overseas, where you get the studio gets less of a cut.
I think it'll do even better overseas.
Well, I would
in
have.
Korea.
I think it will be I think it might be a big hit in China.
Yeah.
Because that's where a lot of the players are now.
Yeah.
But again, that doesn't translate into direct profits for the home base because you get less from that.
Yeah.
There's also the question of like, you know, China's got this thing where they decide a certain number of Western movies get released every year, and that's it.
Right.
So Warcraft has to
be one of the ones chosen
to be one of those. Whereas like the way to get around that is you shoot a bunch of the movie in China.
Yeah.
Which is what like Transformers: Age of Extinction did. If you have a certain chunk of the movie's production
then
was
it automatically
in China,
gets passed?
it counts as a Chinese production and it gets to
Gotcha.
be released there. So that's
Interesting.
how Age of Extinction got released. And Age of Extinction was the biggest.
And that's probably worth like $200 million.
Oh, it was the biggest. It was the biggest opening in Chinese film
Yeah.
history. I mean, it was totally worth it. It was absolutely worth it.
All right, we should move on. We're spending way too much time on BlizzCon.
We'll come back.
We have too much other big stuff.
We'll come back to the Warcraft movie.
Definitely.
Closer to that.
We got so close to shaking hands on that bet.
We'll talk about it later.
We both like. I wanted to bet though. That over under of 20 million the first weekend. I'll take that bet.
I need to see closer to like how they handle the marketing campaign, but I don't think that movie's going to do too well.
All right,
I
we'll
think
see.
it's between audiences.
All right, so next we're going to move on to one of our general interest stories. We usually try to have at least one of these on GameFace every week. And usually what I do is I kind of scour sifted to see what's really got you guys talking. And probably the story that had the most vitriol in the comments was a story about Zoe Quinn basically selling the film rights to her memoir. Basically, she sold the rights to the Gamergate story. Isn't that really what it is?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the genesis of what became Gamergate.
How do you feel about that, Matt? You're a big film guy, first of all. Would you go see that movie? Will you go see it? It's going to come out.
Maybe. I mean, it kind of depends who writes and directs it. I mean, like who do you get to write that? Aaron Sorkin?
Yeah.
Like, is it like a Social Network kind of thing? Like, you get Aaron Sorkin and David Fincher back together for this one?
Here's what I really want to talk about, though. I personally, I may go see that movie, I have to say.
I mean, I figure I'll go
Just
see it.
because it's about gaming culture, I probably would go to see it. But it makes me sick because I
it's
don't
also
want to
amazing
give...
to me. It's like, can you, back when that all started to heat up, can you imagine? Like, I never would have thought, like, oh, one day they're going to make a movie out of this one. It's like, it's great. Like, how do you even dramatize that?
I don't know.
It's mostly, like, people screaming on Twitter.
Here's my personal issues with it, is I don't want to give any money towards this project at all. Not a penny, not a tenth of a penny, nothing. Because, to me, she is just, like, gone against everything that she's, like, stood for. Like, she tried to me, I feel like she's tried to portray herself as this virtuous person who's trying to do the right thing and just wants to be left alone and wants these people to leave her alone and just wants to go back to having like a normal life. And instead of doing that, she's now basically created this sound system to trumpet the whole thing and make it even bigger than it's ever been. Like, I don't know. Like, you know, when this first happened, like, I was completely in her corner just because of the way people were treating her. And look, don't get me wrong. No matter what, the way people have treated her is wrong and it's awful, and I'll always condemn it and say it's terrible. But now as time has gone on, like, some of the people who are like a little more moderate on this and weren't the insane Gamergate people are just like, well, you know, she's not innocent in this. Like, at first I kind of blew those people off, but now, I don't know,
Well, not
man.
innocent in how?
What do you mean?
Well, what do you mean? What did she do then?
Well, people are just saying that she was like making things to be worse than they really were, to build a story around it and to garner sympathy from people and to get attention, in all honesty, and basically blowing it bigger out of proportion than it was. And I would say, first I was like, no, you guys are crazy. Like, you're Gamergaters. Like, you're just like the whack jaws. But now I don't know, man. Like, now that she's like basically cashed in on the hate that she's got, like, it rubs me a little bit the wrong way.
I don't know what her thought process is on selling the rights for that.
Well, it's money, Matt, obviously.
Money, but like, how much money is worth like starting that whole thing up again and maybe getting death threats again and going through all that shit
Well, why else
again?
would she have done it if it wasn't for money?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
No, that's what I'm saying. It was money.
Ostensibly,
and it shows you like.
Well, ostensibly, I would think that part of it would be maybe the thought process could be like, well, more people should know this happened. Because people don't know that Gamergate
She went to the UN. Like, you can see her right there. She went to like.
Yeah, but the people who like would go see like the Social Network or like a movie like that, like they don't know that this happened. This was.
No, I mean, it was mainstream, Matt. It was on the front of like Yahoo.com, CNN.com, Fox News, everywhere.
I have explained what Gamergate was to people that I know that worked at G4 in the last few months. Like, people don't necessarily know what happened here. People not necessarily heard of it because it was, it was on Colbert, it was on that kind of thing. But it was, if you missed Colbert that night,
but what I'm telling you is it was like that everywhere. Like, okay, you missed it on Colbert. Well, then it was on CNN.com. Well, if you missed it on CNN, well, then it was on Yahoo. Well, if you missed it on Yahoo, well, then it was on Fox News. And if you missed it there, well, then it was on your favorite text. Like, it was everywhere. Like, my mom knows about it, and that she's a good barometer for stuff. Like, if my mom asks me about something or knows about something, like, that's usually a good sign that it hit like critical mass. And it made the Facebook round, so to speak.
Also makes sense. Well,
with all the cat videos and cat photos.
If so, then that makes sense why suddenly the studios would go trawling around for the rights.
Well, exactly. I mean, look, the studios, obviously, their bloodhounds sniffed on it and found it and went and approached her. And, like, it just rubs me the wrong way. Like, there's just certain things that happen in life where you don't even have to, like, have an explanation for it. When you hear about it, you're just like, that's screwed up. And that's exactly what I thought as soon as I saw this, because that has been her cry this whole time. Is like, just leave me alone. Like, I didn't ask for any of this. Well, now it does seem like she did kind of ask for it. And I almost wonder now if it was all part of an elaborate plan to drum up more interest in it so that she could ultimately do something like this. I mean, let's face it, Matt. Like, what was she doing before this happened? She made that game Depression Quest, which really stretches the boundaries of what you could call a video game. I don't know if you played it or not, but it's like a text adventure that's basically a bunch of Microsoft Word documents on the screen. Like, that I may be able to make that quote unquote game.
But doesn't that also kind of speak to the fact that this was all about nothing? Like that was this whole thing about the germ of it was supposedly about Playola
journalism ethics in video games.
Playola for like good reviews or whatever of that game, but it's like, okay, first off, it's free.
Right.
The review, what was claimed to have been reviewed never happened.
Well, yeah, I mean,
second, it's free. Like, the absolute worst case scenario in that situation was someone went and played a free game and didn't like it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the worst thing that could have happened in the situation.
And that's what I'm saying.
If what they said happened even happened.
To turn a non-story into selling a script to Hollywood.
Yeah, but it became about someone being like physically threatened and attacked over like fucking because they're a girl involved in video games, and that there's a story there. Like there's something to talk about. There's a story to be told, whether or not you think it's wise for her to like open that box again. I mean, that's her decision.
I'm not saying whether it's wise or not. That was never my contention. My contention was that it goes against everything that she's kind of stood upon since this whole thing happened. She wanted to be left alone. She wanted it to go away. She wanted to sweep it under the rug.
Well, do you think it's
if you do that, no, it's going to get worse. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm assuming like things probably have died down a little bit over the last couple months. I'm sure she still gets calls and emails here and there from those freakazoids. But I'm sure over time, like, it's that curve. Like, eventually people stop bothering her. Things start to chill out. And then all of a sudden she's like, well, let me just stir that beehive again. Let me sell this script for my memoirs. Like, it just rubs me the wrong way, man. Like, I don't know what it is. I just get really weird vibes off of the whole stinking thing. And like I said, I have been a defender of her all this whole time, and you're right. It was not a story. Like, she did nothing wrong. The guy who wrote the review did nothing wrong. This whole thing was generated out of nothing, out of vapor, which is just mind-boggling.
The guy who wrote the review didn't write a review.
Yeah, I know. It's insane. It never even happened. So I hear you. I hear what you're saying. Like, it's something that came out of nothing, but there is something now. Like, as you said, there is a story there. There is a story to be told, and she's cashing in on it. Like, when she was saying that, I'm tired of it, like here she sits right now, like talking to people, trying to explain like what she went through, and now she just wishes it would go away. Well, if you want it to go away, you don't sign a deal for a script for Hollywood that gets plastered all over the internet again. Like, it's just, I just think it's wrong.
Or you do, and you hope that, like, by telling that story, more people kind of recognize that this is a phenomenon that needs to be addressed, discussed, and stopped.
Yeah. Do you really think...
I mean, that isn't... I guess that's kind of an idealist way to look at it, but I would like to think that that was the thought process behind it, more than like, oh boy, I can cash in and do... I mean,
I would believe you, Matt, if she had given the script or became a script consultant on the film, but selling it, to me, that changes everything.
Never work for free.
It's her memoir. She already wrote them. She's just turning over her memoir, something that she probably did for her own sanity.
What did she sell them for? Do we know what they were doing $1 now?
I don't think it matters.
Maybe she sold them for $1.
That could be. Okay, I will say you're right there. If it's true that she sold them for $1 as a formality, because sometimes when you do things like that, you have to pay at least $1.
Yeah, like Stephen King does that.
Right, for legal purposes. If that's the case, then I will stand corrected.
I mean, I don't know.
I highly doubt that that's the case.
True.
Highly doubt.
I also highly doubt that. But we don't know. And like that's how this shit all blew up, is like nobody knowing what really happened, nobody getting the facts straight, everybody just like going on what they feel about things, and that's how you end up with people driving to people's houses with guns.
Yeah, or you end up like with Anita Sarkeesian's like face plaster all over E3 with like derogatory comments all over it. So, and look, I don't want anybody to think watching this show that I condone any of the crap that has happened through Gamergate to either one of those women at all. It's awful. It's terrible. And
I think she can do, I don't know what the consequences will be of making this movie, but I think she can do whatever the hell she wants with her rights to that story however she wants, because like claiming that like doing that is somehow like suspicious or whatever, like that smacks a little too much of me, of like, hey, shut up and stop talking about this horrible thing that happened to you. Like, and that shouldn't be, I don't think that's something to say to someone who went through that. Like, if that's what she thinks she needs to do right now, she can do that. And
again, I have no problem with that, but I think it's the selling part, it's the monetary part of it that trips my trigger.
Right. Well, we don't know enough about that monetary part to really say what happened there, I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? And who knows if, I don't know. I'm trying to picture how you make a movie out of that, and I guess I would have said the same thing about the founding of Facebook. There's something, you can do it, I guess, but it's just, like, it just seems like such an abstract situation to make a film about, and then on top of that, such unpleasant
Let me add this
matter.
as well. So today, whenever I knew we were going to talk about this, I was kind of searching around trying to find footage to show and things like that, and I went to Zoe's YouTube channel. And so, I started looking around. There's really nothing there, in all honesty. Like, it's just like little cell phone videos that she took for the most part. But like one of the videos on there was a cell phone video that she took of her talking to somebody who's calling her to harass her. And like it's her with like, they don't show anyone in the room, but you can tell there's 5 or 6 other people there, her friends or whatever. And they're like messing with the guy who's harassing her. I don't know how people get people's phone numbers. How does that happen? So anyway, this random guy calls and
I haven't owned a phone book in years.
Yeah. And they're sitting there like having fun with the guy. Like, the guy's an idiot. Like, you can just tell he's a dumbass. I can't believe he even bothered to call her. And like, they're making fun of him saying, look, you didn't really think this through, because he looks like an idiot. He has nothing to say. He has no argument. He's just saying stupid stuff like, yeah, your game sucked. Like, pretty much what you expect from a Gamergator, to be honest with you. But they're all having like fun with it. Like, they're all laughing and joking and like cracking jokes at his expense and stuff. And like, and so I see that.
Well, how far into this situation was that video taken?
It was this is months and months ago.
See, because I'm sure the first like 4 or 5 of those you get are probably terrifying. But if you get like 100, 200, 300, at a certain point, I mean, because like we used to get some creepy shit sent to us. Not on the level of what we're talking about with people like Zoe Quinn or Anita Sarkeesian or whatever, but we used to get some creepy shit sent to the hosts at G4 once in a while.
Yeah.
And
I would even say more than once in a while.
Oh yeah, and we would we would pass some of that stuff around, and we'd forward it to legal, but we'd also sort of read it and be like, dude, what the this is hilarious, amazing, like what the hell? But like it's a very big difference between like some kind of communication, remote communication like that versus like I think that person is coming here now.
Yeah.
And some of these things have really escalated to that point. and or it seemed there seemed
Again,
to have.
and like if I was her and I was really scared for my life, and this is the last thing I would do is
I'd see
stir
that.
the beehive like that. It just seems crazy.
If she thinks this is a
I would just
story
want it
that
to
has
go away.
maybe she feels this is a duty to like get that story out there in a way that like she feels communicates it somehow to people who might not know otherwise.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think that's a stretch.
And there's also like kind of there's both all the different sides and all the there's everybody's got their own version of what happened in terms of the people who are doing the major players in these events. So kind of maybe the question becomes like, is there going to be this rush of things to like try where everybody tries to tell what really happened?
If it comes out that she got even $20,000 for that, how would you feel?
I don't care.
Really?
Not really.
Doesn't change how you look at it at all.
Not really.
Wow, I'm surprised to hear that.
I don't. Might as well get fucking.
And look, chances
might as well
are
fucking get something out of this.
And look, we both know chances are she got a lot more than that.
Odds are, I would say so.
Yeah. Like 6 figures probably, or more.
Seems I mean, again, we don't know, but it seems like a reasonable. As these things go, I would say that's
typical.
reasonable.
Yeah. I don't. To me, that would be insane. Like her making that much money off of this whole thing. Like I just think it's just wrong, based upon what she said in the press, how she's portrayed the whole situation. I just think it's the last thing she should do. And I think if she's trying to build her case, selling the rights to something like that, I don't know.
Maybe she accepted that it's not going away.
Maybe. But it is going away. People are not going to harass her forever. They're going to get sick of her. They're going to find... Yeah.
Because it's still fucking happening out there. Some people still mention something about Gamergate-related stuff, and like they've got a flood of Twitter messages over. I mean, it's still happening. It's still there. And I'm sure, Zoe and Anita, and I'm sure they don't go a day without all this shit going down all the time. I mean... To us, I'm sure it's quieter because we don't get harassed like that. But to her, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not.
It has to. There's no way it's the same as it was. Like, it has to have died down. Like, even the craziest person eventually gets sick of, like, harassing the same person over and over.
I don't know. I saw some pretty persistent crazy people in my time.
And I'm one of them.
People with their aggregate sites just don't know when to quit.
All right, it's time to move on. I think we both said our piece on that topic. Certainly an interesting discussion that there's no clear kind of black and white answer to. I think the money does matter, and I think the amount of money matters. I think if it was just like a handshake deal where like, here's $1 to make sure you don't sue me and we actually did sell this to you, I think it makes a big difference in her getting $100K for...
I'll wait and see. I'm more interested in more details on.
I'm more interested to see how they make a movie out of this.
I'm interested in that. I mean, I really am going to be interested to see who they get to write it and who they get to direct it.
What was the name that they were throwing around as the actress who was going to portray her?
I didn't see that.
Oh, it was some crazy like Hollywood starlet, like super hot like Hollywood starlet.
What, like Jennifer Lawrence or something?
No, it's the other one.
Scarlett Johansson?
Yeah. It's funny, I said the other one and you knew even said the other talking about. Yeah, Scarlett Johansson.
When you said that, like a Facebook story popped in my head. It was a picture of Scarlett Johansson. I remember.
That's like the rumor right now or whatever. So.
Yeah. Well, I think Scarlett Johansson's rumored for almost every female lead role in Hollywood right now.
Yeah. I don't blame him.
It's going to be either her or Jessica Chastain or Jennifer Lawrence. Those are your choices. Those are your choices for your major female roles at this point.
Sadly, yeah, you're right. That's pretty much what it comes down to.
Unless you get like casting slightly older, and then you can start moving into kind of the Meryl Streep realm.
Yeah, and then they'll get paid half of what like their male counterparts.
Right. Well, because they don't negotiate hard enough, or whatever the hell Jeremy Renner said. Oh, Hawkeye! Stop disappointing me.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on. Another big release today: Steam machines are now in stores.
At long last.
Yeah, after a whole lot of talk and consternation and, in all honesty, whole lot of confusion still right now. Like, I think there's like 14 manufacturers of Steam boxes right now, like licensed.
I'm not in the market to buy one, but if I was, I wouldn't even know where to start.
It is confusing. And I think that might be a big issue for consumers. And look, these are getting some space in at GameStop, which is a big, big deal to be able to have some space in there for a PC.
Yeah.
In GameStop.
But they do outperform the consoles.
Well, that's what Gaben says.
Yeah.
Do they though? I don't know if they do.
Be surprised if they didn't.
Really?
I'm not particularly impressed with either console's performance at this point.
I don't know.
I would think you could at least get a solid 30 at 1080p out of most of the games today on those Steam machines.
Well, here's the thing. So Steam machines are launching today. The lowest price for a Steam machine is $450. There's no console.
I mean, you are paying more for that. I mean, you are paying for the hardware.
And after you talk about the bundles and the price drops for the consoles, like you're spending extra $100, and you're not getting any free games.
I just wonder who
is this for, Matt?
I don't know.
I really cannot figure out what market this is for at all. Like, I really cannot think of a single person who would want this thing, because here's the other thing, is that they just put out, what's it called? Streamlink? Is that what it's called? Steam Link.
Yeah.
That just streams everything from your PC to your TV. The reviews
if I was going to get anything, it would be that, frankly.
The reviews started coming out today. I think it's getting around like a 7 out of 10 around there, which is weird to kind of put a number on a piece of hardware, but that's where the reviews are coming in so far for it. And to me, that's the better alternative. Look, it looks like the tech's there, like it's a little glitchy, nothing that they can't fix with some firmware upgrades or some software adjustments. But to spend an extra $500 to try to take away what little latency there is right now, sending that information from your PC to your TV, that's a hard sell, Matt.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, like,
at least $450.
My PC setup is just fine. Like, I don't really care about having it on the TV at this point.
I do. Like, I prefer to play games on the couch where I can kick my feet up on the ottoman and I can lay back and have like a bowl of chips sitting next to me and a drink and like.
At this point, my computer monitor has a much higher resolution capability than my plasma.
For sure.
So it's like, well, I can, if I'm going to play it on PC, I might as well just play it on the higher resolution on my monitor and not worry about me, because my TV's great, but like, it's also like the consoles aren't going to really push it beyond that 1080p resolution, so I'm not really worried about it. It does the job. It's fine. Yeah. It's for Blu-rays and consoles, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But if I want to play PC games, like, I've got the horsepower to run that stuff at 4K, so I'm going to do it on the monitor.
Yeah, but I still think there's value in couch play, man.
There is, but it's like, is there like $500 separate console value?
No, that's what I'm saying. No, it's not worth it at all.
Is there like streaming device that like it kind of ruins the gameplay value? I mean, because you like competitive games, and I mean, so like, if I want to play like a Witcher 3, that's not, if you get a couple milliseconds of lag, that's not too bad. But if you're trying to play
This is what I'm saying.
Team Fortress 2, like, that's going to ruin your game.
There's no market for this, because it's like, okay, so I play PC games all the time, and like every once in a while I will get an action adventure on PC, like, just because I want to actually use my PC and like see it really flex its muscles, so to speak. But most of what I play on PC is like MOBAs or 4X strategy games, like things that are more conducive to like a mouse and a keyboard. And so...
But the Steam controller solves all that.
It doesn't solve any of it.
I didn't think it would.
No, it is getting terrible reviews, by the way. Reviews for that started coming out today, and it is getting hammered. Like, I think the number score I saw for that was like 4 out of 10 on a couple reviews. Yeah, wow. I mean, people are not adapting well to it. And so, the only games that I play on PC, there's no way I'm going to play League of Legends on the Steam controller. Like, it's just not going to happen. You're not going to be competitive. You're going to get your butt kicked, and like everyone on your team's going to hate you. Like,
no, it's like the mouse and keyboard versus controller first-person shooter thing.
Yeah, and like, so I'm out of the market. Like, I have no interest in it. Like, I have maybe not a problem with the Steam Link. Like, I could probably get some use out of that. Like, if I could play like an action adventure on my PC on the couch, like, I would do that. Like, if I could play like The Witcher, if I could play Fallout 4 with the better graphics, but play it on my TV on the couch, like, I would do that. And so that's like $50. And that I do see a market for, and I do see people buying that. But these Steam machines, like...
I'm just shocked how many different companies got in on that.
Oh, I know. Like there's literally like 14. Like, I researched it today, and there's like 14 different manufacturing companies who are making Steam machines. And like, of course there's probably all kinds of palm greasing going on, depending... like.
But just the fact that many people thought that was a good idea... to jump in on is really interesting.
I'm actually curious, while Matt and I talk about this, anybody who in the chat, like, if you guys are interested in buying it, tell us why. If you're someone who's in the market for a Steam machine, you're thinking about buying one, tell us what your reasoning is, because I'm really at a loss here, man. Like, I just, you assume, look, it's Valve, it's Gabe. Like, you know they've done the research and that they feel like they've found that people want these things.
Like, is it for people who don't, like, you haven't upgraded your PC in a long time, like, it's time to do it, but instead of building a new one for, like, $1,200, you buy, like, a $600 console?
But you're not really upgrading then, probably, unless your PC is, like, 10 years old.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're, like, really behind the last wave of, like, graphic GPUs and processors, like, that's not...
It's going to be a sideways move. Yeah. Like, I just don't get it, Matt. And I think it's, honestly, I think they're going to flop, and I think they're going to flop hard.
Like, what do you think they're looking to sell, like, numbers-wise on this thing?
Well, there's no way to know because there's so many manufacturers. They probably all have different targets.
Well, that's the other thing is, like, did Valve make their money already by the licensing them to these different companies?
I'm sure.
Like, is it just those companies, is it just Alienware and all these other companies going to take a bath on this? Is that where that's going to happen?
I mean, Valve... I don't see how...
Gabe's already throwing money in the air. He doesn't care.
I mean, well, he's been throwing money in the air for a long time.
Yeah, but now it's a different pile of money.
Yeah. I mean, is Steam actually making its own Steam machine? Is there a Steam licensed Steam machine?
I would figure they're all licensed.
No, but I mean, is there like
an official...
manufactured by Valve? I don't think there is. I mean, they have like no skin in the game. They're just like, put our OS on it.
Yeah.
Put our logo on it. Give us X amount of dollars.
It's the perfect crime.
It's just branded. That's all it is. It's a branded shuttle PC. That's really all it is.
But that's genius.
It isn't, like, for Valve it is.
For Valve, yeah.
I'm talking about, like, the manufacturers. And look, these manufacturers probably don't give a crap because whether they sell a Steam machine or whether they sell a tower, they don't care.
Right, they just want to sell something.
Right. As long as the profit margin is there, they don't care what they're selling. In fact, if they could get away with selling popcorn, they'd sell freaking popcorn.
But do you think they had to pay to get, like, the Steam machine license? Like, clearly Valve makes their money that way.
You have to pay to put that Steam logo on your Steam machine, no doubt. And the ability to call it a quote-unquote Steam machine.
So you're probably making more pure profit off of just a normal tower, a normal PC you sell. So the Steam machine thing must have had some real appeal to have people go in on that. So what I'm wondering is, like, what did you say to these companies to make them believe?
Yeah, so Crawford Hanna says, I was thinking about getting one, always been a console gamer and want to game on the couch. I have a Mac, and it's hard to stream games to my TV. Also like that you don't have to use a mouse and keyboard.
All right.
That sounds like a pretty unique situation.
It's a very specific situation, but it is a legitimate situation.
It is. Yeah, so I guess there is. I just don't know how many of those people there are.
All I can say is, like, I trust that Valve knows that better than we do. Right?
Sublevel saying, they've held back Half-Life 3 to release it exclusively on the Steam machine. That would sell
some Steam machines.
The only problem is you couldn't just put it on the Steam machine without releasing it for PC as well. So.
Oh, they'd find a way.
I don't know. It is Valve. Maybe they could find a way.
Valve will find a way because Valve is life.
Yeah. I don't know, Matt. And then
they
here's
have
the other
to have a plan.
Here's the other part of it too. GameStop and retailers is taking a lot of space. Like I think the displays, they just have like little tags, kind of like Toys R Us when you buy games. You take the tag up to the counter and then they actually give it to you.
I used to buy games at Toys R Us.
They don't do that anymore?
No, not for years.
No, I haven't been to Toys R Us in a long time, as you can tell.
Yeah. So, they're all locked in big cases now.
All right. Well, that's the way it was, though. Like, you take the little tag.
Yeah, but now
paper.
you just go find someone and say, I want that.
Oh, got ya. So that's what I'm saying. It's like the shelf space at GameStop, especially around the holidays, is really valuable and hard to get. And so,
it's interesting that GameStop is giving that much space to something that is then never going to benefit them again.
Right. Because you
they
take
it home and you buy everything on the Steam
online.
machine and you don't ever buy anything at GameStop.
Right. So what incentive does GameStop have to keep them in stock or even taking up all that space in their stores if they're not making any money off the software for them? And if they're not selling, like, GameStop will boot those things out of its stores faster than you can blink an eye if they don't sell like crazy.
So the question becomes, what does Gabe Newell have on GameStop?
I don't know. I'm really, really pessimistic on this. And look, even if they are better, they do look better, the games look better than the PlayStation 4. The other part of it, too, is the software available. Like, people are going to be like, oh, but I can't play Uncharted on this. I can't play Halo on this. I can't play God of War on this. Like, I mean, I can go on and on and on. Like,
I don't know. I go back and forth on kind of that. Because, like, there's part of me that, like, really, likes to believe that people don't make $1 million+ decisions off of, bad information or dumb
Or no
research or whatever,
information.
no information. But then you turn around and it's just like Gem and the Holograms movie.
Or you look at like
Biggest flop in the history of film, wide release film.
Or you look at the original pitch for the Xbox One.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. Microsoft, of all companies, I mean, you just know that they focus test the living crap out of everything. And still, they had that horrible plan for the Xbox One originally that they had to completely 180 on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so look, companies with great reputations, with full smart people, do make terrible decisions sometimes, and like
$599.
But I think you actually make a really good point. Is that who's really on the hook for it if it doesn't work? Mm-hmm. Nobody, because all those components in these machines can be recycled and put into a desktop. Like, it's not like they've built these components specifically for it. Yeah. So,
like, you get the feeling that, like, if it doesn't work, basically, Valve's already made their money, and all those individual manufacturers, because there's so many of them, they don't even really need to commit to that many units made.
Yep.
And they all can kind of sit back and go like, well, we tried.
So, right. So it is a really smart business as far as, like, low risk, potential reward. Mm-hmm. But if we're talking about whether these things are going to generate money, or if we're going to walk into someone's home next year and count on seeing a Steam machine underneath their television, I think no. I don't think it's going to doom anyone. I don't think it's going to hurt Valve if it doesn't succeed. Maybe a little bit in mind share because Valve doesn't fail it very much. Mm. And so maybe it's a little hit, a little chink in the armor, a little
Can
hit,
you use
little
a
hit to
different
the
controller
ego.
if you want?
You should be able to use an Xbox controller. Mm. It's a PC. And now that you can use DualShock 4 as well on PC if you have the right software and dongle. Right. So, you should be able to use other controllers. So you wouldn't just be stuck using the Steam controller. But Steam controller is specifically made to be able to play PC games, like strategy games and things like that. So,
well, I think I'm pretty much in the same boat you are, where I think maybe at some point I might try the Steam Link thing.
Yeah.
But I certainly don't.
$50.
Yeah.
That's like something I asked for Christmas. In fact, maybe I will.
Yeah.
Because it's like something I probably wouldn't want to pay for on my own, but it's like I'm at the point in my life where I don't really need much anymore. So when it's funny when the holidays roll around, it's like, what do you want for Christmas? I'm like, you know what? You can't buy me a Porsche, so
steak would be good.
Like, I would really like to own a home, and I know you can't do anything about that, particularly since I live in Los Angeles. So, I end up buying stupid mundane stuff, like things that I'm just like I kept putting off buying all year. Like I asked for that for Christmas, and so I could see Steam Link maybe making it onto my Amazon wish list if they even sell it on Amazon, which I doubt.
But then the problem with that is, like, I probably wouldn't put that on my Christmas list because I go back to San Francisco for Christmas, and, like, getting something that I can't use to, like, come back is annoying.
Yeah, it is. Sitting there just looking at it.
Got a little gray box.
That's why you just have them ship it to your apartment in LA. So it's
it
out of
down.
sight, out of mind. So we'll see. I mean, I honestly feel pretty strongly that I'm going to be right on this, that these Steam machines are going to come and go. And
I don't see any reason to think otherwise.
Yeah. We'll see. The proof will be in the pudding ultimately. In fact, we probably should learn.
I think you've said that 3 times today.
Have I?
Proof.
You're right. At least
lot
twice.
Of pudding.
At least twice, yeah.
A lot of pudding tonight.
Yeah. So we'll see. Probably, I wonder if MPD will even report on this type of stuff.
I don't know. We may never know.
You're right.
That's the thing is, like, if it doesn't do well, it'll just quietly vanish.
Because Valve won't tell you, and the manufacturers aren't going to tell you.
We're going to have to look for signs like birds flying south and GameStop pulling them from the shelves.
Right.
That's the only way we'll know.
That's how we will know.
Yeah.
And I think that could probably happen pretty quickly when they're like, well, you also have like the return of like the guitar games this holiday.
Yeah.
I mean, they take up a lot of space.
I hadn't been in a retail store in a while until like the last weekend, and like I was shocked at how much shelf real estate Rock Band and Guitar Hero are taking up right now.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Like, so like huge displays, like huge like I was like, oh my god, the box, the band in a box is gigantic, but it was actually like a billboard thing like near the shelf, and it was like a whole, a third of the whole section is that.
Yep. So you have those back in the stores. You got the Steam machines in there. You got all the Q4 product coming out now.
And then all that extra shelf space everybody has to devote to Amiibos and Disney Infinity and Skylanders.
Right. That's big box stuff, and you have the collector's editions that come out for every freaking game now. Like times they are changing, man, and like it's just getting even more tough to get that space. That's why I think GameStop, again, because you said not a lot of profit in it for them. If something's going to go first, what do you think it's going to be? It's going to be the Steam machines.
Yeah.
So, and if they lose that foothold in brick and mortar, makes it even a tougher sell. So we'll see. But I wish them luck. Hopefully it works out okay. The more people who get into gaming, period, is always good for the industry and good for our show and our website and whatever. So I hope it works out, but I am definitely pessimistic. So time to move on to the last topic of the Big Six. We talked about this game a little bit last week, but the problem was I was in the middle of the review, the game eval, and I was under NDA, so I couldn't talk about much. But now, obviously, the game came out today. Our game eval went up a couple days ago before the game came out. So Rise of the Tomb Raider. Matt, you have not had a chance to play it, have you?
No. I was going to try to get it and play it yesterday or last night, but I ended up on an odyssey to find a new monitor instead. So it's just I'll probably pick it up on the way home from here, actually.
So obviously I have played it. I've played it all the way through and played it well after that as well, because it has this expeditions mode that you can play to try to lengthen the experience a little bit. Which is basically just a remix of the campaign levels. Literally, in some cases, it's just playing the campaign levels as quickly as possible while collecting crap. So there's not a lot of extra value hidden kind of in that expeditions mode, although they announced today that they've integrated some kind of Twitch thing where if you watch other people play, you get, like, coins because it's all card-driven.
Yeah.
Just like every multiplayer mode now, it's all driven by cards. And so you have a card for like a weapon, you have a card for like buffs or cards to make it more challenging. And you play them, some of them last forever, some of them burn when you play them. And then they actually do a really good job of giving you enough cards just by playing the game.
Every Xbox One exclusive has cards in it.
Yeah.
This
it's
season.
not just Xbox One though, it's like
but
every game has like cards in it.
Well, there's a lot of it, but I'm saying like Forza 6, Halo 5, and now Tomb Raider all have cards as a key gameplay component.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, and it's a way to make money. That's all there is to it. And I will say, Rise of the Tomb Raider gives you plenty of cards for free. I never came into a situation where I was like, I really want to buy some.
But I do dig the whole idea that like people watching the Twitch stream can make your game harder.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat.
It's a neat concept, but
it's too like that. It's weird to me that like they wouldn't have put that into Halo somehow.
Yeah. Well, how would you do that though? The campaign?
Like I would watch more Twitch streams if I could somehow like suddenly play a card and suddenly it's on Legendary.
Yeah.
And the person playing wasn't ready for it.
Yeah. It could be fun. It's a cool idea. There's no doubt about it.
That is just a level of trolling through Twitch that that's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I think
but
that's a cool idea.
Keep in mind, it's also just for expeditions. It's not for like the main campaign.
Right.
Like I can't be playing the campaign and all of a sudden you can spawn a bear into the campaign, which would be freaking awesome. By the way,
yeah.
It really would be.
I'm looking for I remember.
That day's probably coming. By the way,
should be, yeah,
where people who are watching actually build the game on the fly for the streamer to play through.
Well, I'm looking for the day when because there were a bunch of games, a couple of games that were planning to be like this, and there was one game, I always forget the name, but it was by I think it was by the Left 4 Dead people, and it was going to be like a shooter, except all the enemies were played by other people playing with you, so you never played against like an AI. But like obviously,
well, there's kind of been games like that already,
somewhat, but not like something like a Halo where you never play against an AI, where it's always other players as these other enemy characters trying to kill you. And obviously,
so hard to balance a challenge.
It is hard to balance, but obviously, like the enemy characters, you can take like 2 shots. So it's like whereas the main character can take tons of shots.
Right.
But some kind of asymmetrical pseudo single player thing. I'm still kind of waiting for someone to pull that off. I wish I could remember what the name of that game was. I'm sure someone in chat will know what it was. But it was supposed to be through Valve. It was going to be a thing. And it was The Crossing. That's what it was called. It was called The Crossing.
The Crossing.
The Crossing. And I really like that idea.
Well, let's get back to this because Expedition mode is really just an afterthought. Like, I played it for 2 or 3 hours and I was pretty much done. So, one thing I will say is that I gave this game a crazy positive impression last week. I had played limited amounts of it and I was only allowed to talk about very limited things. And so, I will say that the more I played this game, the less I liked it. They did a pretty good job, actually, for the most part. Like, for 60-70% of the game, it's paced really well. Like, you're getting new weapons and abilities, and just as soon as you get them, the next level really lets you learn how to use them, and then the level after that helps you master them, and then they give you a new one. It would repeat it. But then for the last, act, you kind of have all your abilities and everything. And so for the last, like, and this game's pretty big. Like, I think I finished it in 17 hours or something like that. So for the last handful of hours, you kind of have everything, and it just kind of turns into this grind because you've already been doing like this already for like 15 hours or so. So I do feel like it loses a little bit of steam, but I think the one thing that really struck me about this game, and I did mention this in the Game Eval, is that it reminded me a lot of Metroid. And I know that may sound crazy, but the whole game is kind of built that way, how you progress through the game. Like, so there's tons of like extra tombs to play through, which is awesome. And there's like crypts that are like, there are some that are longer, there are some that are smaller. And a lot of them are optional, and sometimes they're already open. But like there's certain parts of the game where the door is barred by something, and it takes a very specific weapon to open it. So what you have to do is you have to venture forth and go through all the levels, find like the flaming arrows or whatever, come back with the flaming arrows, shoot the door disintegrates, and you go in, and even the level design is a lot like Metroid. Like you'll be able to see like, oh my gosh, there's a cave over there, but how the heck do I get there? Well, you can't. Like there's like labyrinths and corridors built out of like fencing and buildings. So you can't just like say, oh, I'm going to climb this fence. And it is a little cheap in that way, the game in general, and that there's not consistency in what you can and cannot climb. Like basically if there's like paint smeared on the wall, that means you can climb it. But there's cases in the game where you should be able to like climb stuff, but it just doesn't let you. And so like you can be able to see something through a fence. You're like, oh, I want to climb this fence and get there. You can't do that. You have to like venture all the way through the level, find this one place where you climb up on top of a building, get on a rope, and then like slide down the rope into the area that you need to get into. And again, it's a lot like Metroid in that way.
Just knock the fence down.
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of video game conventions in this game, I guess is the best way to put it. So
Well,
yeah.
you know what they say archaeology is mostly about, a series of small walls.
Yeah, exactly. And look, some people will love that it's like a Metroid game, but it honestly just started to bug me after a while. I even felt like, and a part of it too is that you're plowing through it for a review, and like I felt like the Metroid Prime games were kind of that way. Like they're a lot more enjoyable if you don't try to plow through them and you just take your time and kind of pick your way through them. And I felt like this game probably would have been more beneficial to this game if that's kind of the way it was played. But there's definitely a couple frustrating points where you're like, it's so stupid, it's right there. Like, why? And you look at the map, and the map doesn't really help, and like. But the core parts of the game, like, and again, for the first 60-70% of the game, it's a great action adventure. Don't get me wrong. It's for the most part, it's really polished. I had a couple weird bugs where the game kind of stuttered and almost stopped, and I thought it was going to crash, but then it kind of caught up. But for the most part, it's really polished. Everything kind of works the way it's supposed to. I'm not a big fan of the cover system because it's one of those cover systems where you don't have like a lock onto the cover button. So you're like kind of floaty on the cover. And there's lots of times where you're behind cover and you start getting hit. Like,
was it like that in the last one?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. I can't remember that game very well. It's a long time ago.
I mean, this game is a lot like the last game. Like I said last week, there is a lot more crafting in this game, and a lot of the crafting feels frivolous. Like, there's a bunch of abilities that you have to level up. Like, you use points as you level up to, like, increase her abilities, so to speak. And, like, there's, like, 12 or 15 for each of 3 categories, and some of them are, like, just pointless and don't really make a big difference in the game. In fact, that's what I would say in general. Overall, is a lot of the upgrades in this game, you don't really notice them, like, when you use them. There's a couple that are very specific, where she'll do very specific things. Like, there's one where you could, like, leave, like, mines on dead enemies, and then when enemies walk up to the body, it'll explode and blow them up. Like, stuff like that you notice, but some of the more subtle things that, like, buff her abilities, like, it's really kind of hard to see the changes. You don't feel like she grows through the game, I guess is the best way to put it, as much as maybe you should.
Well, what about, like, the story? Because you couldn't talk about that at all.
Oh, yeah. So, I did talk a little bit about it. I talked about the setup.
But most of that was all NDA, though.
Yeah.
You couldn't show cutscenes. You couldn't...
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that was just the NDA stuff for, like, streaming and things like that. I mean, the cutscenes that they're showing in these trailers that they release show a lot of the story. And I did kind of give a synopsis of it, which is, there's this artifact that her father was searching for. And
but how is it, like, overall? Is it just sort of...
typical video game story.
Tomb Raider.
Yeah, I mean this is why I have the graphic of their lessening Lara, is because they did such a good job in the first game of creating this interesting character. And look, there was some flaws in the last Tomb Raider, and maybe the overall story wasn't incredible, but the development of Lara was. Like, her going from this green, naive idiot, for lack of a better term, to become this, like, killer. Like, I felt like there was some impact there. In this story, she's just Lara now, and she's just, like, this gung-ho adventurer. I mean, the one emotional angle to it is that she's trying to kind of clear her father's name because people thought he was crazy before he died because he was talking about, you know, this artifact and eternal life and all this stuff, and like, oh, you're a nut, and within his, like, scientific communities, he was kind of vilified, and so part of the story is her trying to set that all right and show that her father wasn't crazy and he was really onto something. The other part of it is that she's just the Tomb Raider and she wants to go collect this crazy artifact. Well, of course, there's some other corporation who wants to use the artifact for evil, and it's this race between the bad guys and Lara to be the first ones to get it. So, and that's pretty much the whole setup. That takes the whole course of the game, so to speak. So,
another Act 1.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. It's just like Halo. It's like, here's your setup.
So, do you think the next Tomb Raider game can just be about Tomb Raider? Like, do we need it? Is the origin story over yet?
I feel like it was completely over. Like, I don't feel like she's developed at all in this game. Like, the person that she is at the beginning of Rise of the Tomb Raider is the same exact person she is at the end. She's, like, betrayed by one person she thinks is close to her or whatever. But
I thought Rise of the Tomb Raider was a weird title for something that follows up an origin story.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even understand the title of it, to be honest with you. Having played it all the way through and knowing everything that happens in the story and everything that happens to her, I have no idea why they named it that. None. I really don't.
I guess just because they didn't want to call it Tomb Raider 2.
Because, yeah, I mean, I think one of the things I saw is that they seem to try to sell this game as, okay, she wasn't really the Tomb Raider yet after the last game, but to me she was. Like, I felt like at the end
called Tomb Raider.
Yeah, and I felt like at the end of the game she was there. Yeah. She had become like this hardened, like, adventurer.
It's like Casino Royale. At the end, he's James Bond.
Exactly. It's a perfect example. And so, you know, I feel like they're trying to sell this as like, oh no, now she's the Tomb Raider. But I already felt she was there. And so, again, like, there's just no real character development in the game. She doesn't evolve at all. She's the same person at the end of the game as she was at the beginning. So, I'm really disappointed in that. I thought Lara had become a really interesting character after the first reboot, and really wanted to see some of that development and see more of that. You really just don't get it here. Mechanically, it's pretty much sound like... Again, like, I'm not a fan of the cover system because you don't snap on. That bothers me a little bit.
You're really not exactly sending me running out of the building to get this on the way home.
What, did you read my game eval?
Yeah. I mean, it didn't sound terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's not terrible. It's not a terrible game at all. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying that. But, you know, I'm just trying to... one of the things I like to do on podcasts is kind of throw all the elements out there that may or may not bother people. Because, like I said with the Metroid stuff, a lot of people may be like, oh my god, it's like Metroid Prime. Like... Some people may be like leaving the stream right now to go buy Rise of the Tomb Raider because I said that.
That's a positive thing to me.
Right.
I mean,
to you it is. But to some people, they may not want to do it.
As long as Lara's not rolling up into a ball and shooting bombs out of her ass, that's a little weird. It's a power-up I don't know.
I mean, she has crazy abilities she gets from like leveling up in this game. Some of the stuff is like a little out there. So... But I like to mention, like, all the potential issues for people. That way, you know, everyone's different. And some stuff people like, some people don't like that. Some people want a straightforward adventure when they play Lara Croft. They don't want to be looking for, like, this one door to use a fire arrow on. So I try to mention any potential issues so everyone can kind of figure out if it's for them. That's just typically my MO when I do podcasts like this. So, yeah, don't get me wrong. It's not a bad game. There's a lot of memorable moments. There's some great set pieces. There are tons of moments where you're running and everything's crumbling all around you, and... You know, the quick time events are kept to a minimum other than the finishing moves. But there's just little issues that kind of the first game had that this doesn't fix. Like, hand-to-hand combat's still janky. It just still doesn't work right. If people get close to you, it just kind of all falls apart. There's no auto-aim in the game. So again, that's something that some people will love and some people will hate. Generally, it doesn't bother me that much, but, like, you literally pop up out of cover in this game, and, like, you have no idea where your reticle is going to be. Like, you could try to say, oh, it's going to pop up in the middle of the screen, but this game is so, you can see, it's so cluttered with detail. It's really hard to figure out where the center of the screen is a lot of time to know where your reticle is going to be when you pop up out of cover. So a lot of times you pop up, they sight you up real quick in this game. Like, literally, they're like dead eyes, and they can throw a grenade from, like, 200 yards and put it, like, on your shoe. So... You pop up, you get shot pretty much. And so you get shot, you flinch, you're trying to get that reticle down. Like, it's just little little things that keep a great game from becoming exceptional. And I guess that's the best way to put it. This game has a lot of little issues that keep it from being exceptional. It's a great game. It's not exceptional. So, as far as like who do I recommend this to, I think if you liked the first one, you're going to like this game. I honestly feel like it doesn't carry the length of the game as well as the first one did, and the story isn't quite as good as the first one. I know a lot of critics are saying it's better than the first game. I actually do not agree with that. I enjoyed playing the first game more. Some things may be a little more smoothed out in this game than in the first one, but for the other elements, I feel like if I'm kind of weighing things all told, the time I spent with the first game, I enjoyed more than I did this one. It's about 17 to 20 hours long. Don't expect to get much more out of it. Do I recommend buying it? I honestly don't recommend buying a lot of games. If it doesn't have a good multiplayer component, or if it's not like a huge like RPG like The Witcher or something like that, like I honestly hardly never recommend buying games, especially if you are a member of like GameFly, because this game, look, it's 17 to 20 hours long, which is a lot for just a single player only game, but still, in 2 or 3 days over a weekend rental from GameFly, you can play through this game and you can finish it. And so I'd be careful buying this game, especially if you belong to a service like that. But I'm not telling you not to buy it on the way home. You buy almost every big game anyway. So
yeah, well, I'm kind of a collector of stuff. So to me, it's like, there's my Tomb Raider games. Here's my Tomb Raiders. But I do hope it's better than Angel of Darkness.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
Tier there.
Oh yeah. It's nowhere even in that realm. Like, it's a good game. It's just,
I really liked
it's a little disappointing
the previous
to me.
one.
Because so did I. I loved it. And I felt it was underrated a little bit even. And so I had high expectations for this. And I thought, if they could expand on it and make it better in both the story and the gameplay. And I feel like it's just kind of running in place and the story isn't there. And the last game had head-to-head multiplayer. Don't forget that. It had like deathmatch and like all these modes where you could actually use the tools from the campaign in a multiplayer setting. And granted, I think I played it for like a week and a half or 2 weeks after it came out, but still, that was a week and a half or 2 weeks more I played the game than you're going to play this one. So that's another way I feel like, obviously, that this is an inferior game. Like, they cut the multiplayer mode out of it, and they had plenty of time to build it. So I'm not sure why they did that, to be honest. I know what they'll say. Well, we wanted to concentrate on making the campaign as good as possible. I don't know why, in reality, they didn't do it.
I never played the multiplayer in the first game.
Yeah. Maybe that's why. They just looked at the stats of it and were like, not enough people played it. But I actually did enjoy like a week and a half or 2 weeks of playing it. I felt like it was fun. And it was different because you could do cool stuff. Like I said, using the tools. Like being able to shoot like the rope arrow and then pull it and like have like something collapse on somebody in a multiplayer match. That's fun. Like, you could do cool stuff in this game that you couldn't do in other shooters and other action-adventure games that have, like, even Uncharted, its multiplayer never had stuff like that in it. So, it's gone. What you see is what you get, basically, with this. There are 4 difficulty settings. You can go back and play it on even harder difficulty, but, it's pretty challenging. Like, it's no pushover. Like I said, the enemies are freaking dead eyes. They're aggressive. They're not smart. Like, they don't do anything. They don't flank you or do anything. They just run at you, like, all of them. And there's some parts of the game where there's, like, a lot of them. So a big part of it is like looking at each situation, figuring out how to dispatch them like one by one. Stealth is a good idea in a lot of cases. I enjoyed it, just a little bit disappointing ultimately. So I guess that's the way I'll close it.
Makes sense.
All right, so that's going to do it for the Big Six. It is time for our trailer of the week. This week's trailer of the week is a precursor to what we're going to talk about in our deep dive, which is Fallout 4. Just came out today. Very proud of some of you guys for showing up in the stream today. I know you guys all probably want to go play Fallout 4 instead of sit here watching us talk about it. So we appreciate it.
Maybe they are playing while they listen to
That could be. That could very well be. So if you are, I hope you're having a good time.
Let's listen to that Danny Kaye song for the 50th time.
Yeah. But here is the launch trailer for Fallout 4. And one thing I will say is that like all the Fallout 4 promotional media was all kind of funny. Like it always had like tongue-in-cheek, like, they did that whole series on, like, all the perks and abilities and stuff, and they're all funny. This one's serious. This trailer is actually what Fallout 4 is. So let's roll it. Launch trailer for Fallout 4.
Everything can change in an instant, whether or not you're ready.
This wasn't the world I wanted, but It was the one I found myself in. This time I'm ready. Because I know war.
War never changes.
I have a question. The only question that matters. Would you risk your life for your fellow man? Even if that man is a synth?
Beneath the Commonwealth, there is a cancer, known as the Institute. A malignant growth that needs to be cut before it infects the surface.
They're the real enemy. Not the Raiders. Not the super mutants. Not even those tools over in Diamond City.
Don't shoot! I swear I'm not a Sith. For God's sakes, we're family!
This is ridiculous. I want the truth, McDonough.
Protect the people at a minute's notice. And decide our own future.
You're a man out of time, but all's not lost.
This campaign will be costly. But in the end, we will be saving humankind from its worst enemy. Itself.
So where is it, huh?
This institute.
How do I get there?
Haven't you been paying attention? You don't find the Institute. The Institute finds you.
Let's go, boy.
All right, Matt. So that trailer is what it's like to play Fallout 4.
Yeah, it's not a funny game.
It's not funny at all, man. Which is so odd that they always they did the same thing with Fallout 3, the way they promoted that. But this game is really gritty and grimy and serious.
That's Fallout. I mean, it's the trappings are kind of amusing and sort of that kitschy sort of 50s never-ended atomic age thing.
Yeah.
But like, when you really get your, the boots on the ground, even from Fallout 1, once you get the boots on the ground, like, it is dark, it is grimy, it is dirty, you are eating rats, it's
scratching
nasty.
for existence, yeah. And first I want to say, before we really go in depth on Fallout 4, I want to talk about why the game eval isn't up yet, and that's because this game kicked my butt. Like, I'm not even going to, sugarcoat it. Like, first couple days I played this game, I could not make hardly any headway in it.
It's tough.
Part of it was that, I was multitasking. So I'd be working on something on the site for a little while, and I'd have, an hour and 20 minutes to, go and play it. And then, I'd play it for an hour and 20 minutes, and I'd come back and do something. I'd go back, and, I wasn't really focused on the game. But it was literally just kicking my ass for the first couple days I played it, just dying over and over again. And I think the one thing I would say is the game's, difficulty curve is just a little off. Because you can't just play through the main story and count on leveling up enough to stay with the enemies. Like, for instance, you came in tonight, and I was like, where are you in the game? And you said, oh, I'm going to such and such. And what did I say to you? I said...
And I've been going to such and such for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I keep getting sidetracked by other things.
Which is what happens in this game. Yeah, right. You'll come across new side missions or new people who give you side missions or whatever. Next thing you know, that mission that you thought you were going to go on, it's 2 hours later and you still like...
Well, then, there's the whole, crafting, building thing. But, at one point I ended up, because you end up, very, very early on, you end up kind of rescuing some people who then, kind of set up camp in the town you started
in your old neighborhood, yeah.
And you go through this whole thing where there's oh, we need beds, we need doors, we need and so you have to learn how to use the crafting system through that.
But see, here's the thing,
and I spent half an hour clearing brush.
Yeah.
I was breaking down wood and I was having a good time. I was the street looks much better now.
No, see, here's the thing,
weird.
I missed all of that.
Really?
Nope, I didn't do any of that. I still haven't done any of that. I have not bought a bed or anything for the people in my, starting town, at all. I built, my homestead at, the rocket drive through.
That's my home base too. Yeah.
But you have that little town like across the bridge.
But I picked the rocket gas station, the Red Rocket gas station, because no one's wandering around whining about how they don't have beds.
Yeah.
So, it's just me and my dog and my power armor. That's it.
So what I was about to say was that you came in and asked you where you were, and you're like, well, I'm heading to such and such. And what did I tell you? I said turn around and don't go there because if you do what the game tells you to do, you'll get your butt kicked. Like, I went to the place that you said you were going to when they told me to go there. They're like, go down there. And I was like, okay. So it's like a long ways you have to go. And, like, I trudge and fight all the way down there. It is hard. Like, you can just randomly get killed out of nowhere. Like, you're just walking across the wasteland and, like, these ghouls just run up to you and just whack you and kill you. Like, there's no warning. There's, like, I know for some of the really higher level enemies, they'll have, like, a little skull next to them to let you know you should run away from them or whatever. But, like, there's some enemies you just can't get away from. Like, they run just as fast as you. And so, you fight through all the way that you get down there and you realize you have no chance. None. Like, you get there and there's, like, a guy guarding the door that you have to empty your whole arsenal to kill. Like, literally, like, every bullet I had, every grenade I had, and I kill him and I go in and there's, like, 5 of them. And I was like, well, okay then. I guess I'm not supposed to be here, but you told me to come here. And so there's some grinding that needs to be done in this game, but there's no good place to grind. Like, I can't find places where there's just, like, medium level enemies that I know I can kill and just kill enough of them to keep, like, leveling up. Like, the balance in this game is just all sorts of screwed up. Like, I need to find a place to grind so I can, like, get over the hump so that I'm not constantly just dying, like, in this game. And, like, I feel like I finally did get there, like, yesterday or the day before. But anyway, this is why the game eval is delayed for Fallout 4. That's why it's not up yet. I am getting close, I feel like, towards the end of the game, but going back to what you're saying about crafting. So my overall impression of this game is that it assumes way too much of the player. It assumes you have played Fallout 3, like, big time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and it does assume you just played it, because I never finished Fallout 3. I played probably 15 hours of it, just because it was, like, came out in Q4. I was really busy. Ryan Stevens had reviewed it for GT. I knew I needed to play it to talk about, like, Game of the Year stuff. So I played it for like 10 or 15 hours. That's not enough to know what to do in Fallout 4.
Oh, no.
It's nowhere near enough.
I did finish that, and I think I finished all the DLC, and it was, I think the final time was like 200 hours. I mean, and that's the thing. We're probably playing the game very differently, because, like, Fallout 4 is basically Fallout 3.
It is,
with, like, some enhancement, with some mods, basically. And with all the good and bad that implies. And, like, there's one thing I know about Bethesda's take on Fallout is you can't rush it. Like, you know, like, when they tell me to, go down to this place, I'm like, well, I better go look at every single thing around here before I do that, because that means, like, go fuck around for, like, 4 hours before you actually make your way down that far. Because the Rivet City was like that in Fallout 3 as well. Like, you didn't go, that's like the 4th or 5th thing they tell you to do when you're looking for your dad in Fallout 3, but, like, if you actually just go do that, you're going to be running from super mutants pretty soon.
The super mutants in this game, you see them real early. Mm-hmm. Like, real early. Like, I don't know if you've run into them yet, but
I haven't yet.
You will very soon.
But I figured that was probably going to happen, because you get thrown into power armor so quick in this game.
Yeah.
I was shocked at how fast, because they've changed the power armor completely.
Yeah.
Which they've shown in, like, videos and stuff, but it's more like a vehicle now. And it's like on one hand, I kind of like the mechanics better on it, but on the other hand, I'm kind of, the Fallout purist in me is a little put off by how much it changes the role of the armor in the universe.
What happened to me was I jumped in my power armor, I started running around the countryside, like, killing chicks. I finally felt like I wasn't going to die from one hit, and I was like, God, I feel powerful, like, oh, I'm going to use this thing. And I got out in the middle of nowhere, and the battery died. Like, and so you go back to the homestead, and they have, like, these things to, like, craft and build it, and, like, for 5 hours, like, while I tried to find a power supply for this stinking thing and be able to afford one, it just sat out in the middle of nowhere, just sitting there. Like, the game.
See, I didn't even know you could run out of fusion core power like that. But what I learned the hard way was, if you get out of your suit to do something, take the fusion core with you.
Yeah.
Because the enemies can get in it.
Yeah. And then attack you with it.
Like, it's like, so I suddenly turn around and I hear, I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, someone's jacking my power armor. And And then now I didn't even think of it, but like what they did in the power before I got them out of it, and then I had to repair everything.
Yeah.
But like they probably drained my battery even more.
They probably did. Yeah. The crazy thing about this game is that it is one of the most complicated games you're going to play this year.
It really is more complicated than you think it, especially once you get into the crafting stuff, and it's
It
not.
is insanely
it's not
complicated.
explained.
Nothing is explained. Nothing. Like you're talking about how you like started like building your homestead like right away, and you started helping those people who moved into like your old house or whatever. I just completely missed that. Like walked right past it. Never. And so when I finally started building back at like the gas station, the Rocket gas station, like I went to the bench and I crafted like a wall and like a prefabbed like gazebo, for lack of a better word. And I'm like, where are they? Where did they go? I could not find them. They had spawned on the other side of the wall from the workbench. So I'm outside, I'm like, okay, well, I'm able to craft things on the fly out here, and I started building stuff, but I'm like, where did those buildings go that I paid for already? And I did not find those buildings until like 3 hours later. Literally, only by luck. I went around the back of the building and saw it, and I was like, there's the walls and like the gazebo I paid for.
Well, the thing I didn't get was that, because you can go up to the workbench, and the workbench is like sort of like, you get kind of an area you can build in. So like the Red Rocket gas station is like an area you can build in.
Yeah.
And then the sanctuary place where all the guys move into is like another area.
And then there's like a drive-in.
But what I didn't get, and I think it kind of explained it in like the tooltip things, but it just didn't, either I didn't read it right or was worded weird. I didn't get that. It says like when you store junk or whatever in the transfer thing on the workbench, you can then draw from that for all the crafting tables. But that only applies to the crafting tables in the area.
Yeah.
So I was trying to build something that required, I think, nuclear material at one point. Yeah. And it's like, you don't have nuclear material. I'm like, I know I have nuclear material. I just found it. And it turned out I'd stored it in the workbench in the other place. And in order to get all those inventories to link up, you have to have like this this perk called like local leader or something that like lets you establish trade routes between all your settlements. Yeah. Which is like, it's like charisma level 6, or it's like mid-game shit.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to be basically like
Well, you can fast travel at least between.
You can, but like at one point I'm just like, well, I'm going to need a lot of wood. So I was like trying to build stuff at Red Rocket, and I'm like, I know I have hundreds and hundreds of wood because I broke down every tree in Sanctuary. Yeah. But then I realized I'd stored it all up there, so I had to like go back and do it. So now I'm kind of like playing pack mule, and I don't even know if there's a better way to do that.
Well, eventually you get companions, and they're like people that follow you around and will fight with you. Like the dog is the first companion.
I have the dog, and I have like the robot, I think, will do that with you.
And you can use them as pack mules. You can load them up with stuff. So that's one thing you should keep in mind to help you when you get incoming. Look, I hate any game that lets you
carrying all my shotguns now. Yeah, exactly. The dog.
I hate any game with being encumbered. I hate it. I hate a game where if you put too much stuff in, you can't move. Like, just don't let me take that next thing. Like, I hate it. It's like you get put in these weird positions where, like, you pick up, like, a syringe and all of a sudden you're overweight and there's an enemy in the room and he just
it's too much.
Hacks your head off. I know, it's like, I feel like this game is old. It's like a game that has not evolved since the last one. Like,
it's weirdly archaic. And I will say, I am enjoying it.
Sometimes it's fun. Like sometimes it's cool to discover stuff on your own.
And weird stuff happens. It's the usual kind of open world Bethesda thing where like it's fun to discover it. But I will say, it unlocked last night at 9 o'clock our time, and my girlfriend was out doing other stuff, and she came home after I'd been playing it for like an hour and a half, and she came in. She's no stranger to Fallout. She plays games a lot. She's she's well versed in all this stuff, and she watched me play it a little bit, and she's like, "Which one is this?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm like,
I mean,
which what? She's like, which Fallout? And I was like, which Fallout is? And I'm like, no, it's Fallout 4. She's like, I didn't even know that was out. I'm like an hour and a half ago. She's like, wow, it sure looks like Fallout 3. And
I know you're trying to tie it into the fact that I just said it feels like an old game, but let's wait to talk about the graphics. Let's go through kind of like the gameplay and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a universal criticism.
It is. You're right. It goes beyond just the visuals for sure. Like, and there's just like simple things that like you can't figure out how to do. For instance, I have had my flashlight on for 2 hours. I have no idea how to turn the flashlight off.
Hold B.
Every once in a while, well, see, here's the thing. Like, I switched up my whole control scheme to play more like a traditional first-person shooter. So I have, like, circle set for crouch and like X for reload and like triangle to interact and like I set it up like a typical shooter.
Then it should be whatever button you use to bring up the Pip-Boy, hold that. That should.
I tried that and like.
But did it not? I mean, I wouldn't surprise me if the game wasn't smart enough to transfer
I changed
that
it to the trackpad. Like that's my Pip-Boy.
So can the trackpad? Does the trackpad know if you're holding it
I don't think
down?
it does. And like
what an interesting problem.
I've noticed like every once in a while I'll hit it and it'll like go off, and I'll tap it again, but it won't come on. And I'll tap it again and it will go on. It's like, like how do I? And then it's like alerting enemies because it's like I come in and my flashlight's on. They're like, oh my god, and they like start shooting me like immediately. Like I can't figure out like guns. Like when you're crafting guns, like how do you take like a scope off a gun and put it on another? Like just it takes forever to figure out the most simple crap. You can, but you have to like re-equip. It's so convoluted. You have to like equip another gun or choose. You have to choose like a new attachment in that same class. Then that attachment will be detached. That can then be reattached. It's just the whole game is like this, Matt. Like it is just archaic as all get out, and like. Here's the thing about games like this, though, is that like eventually you learn all these little nuances, and then like a month later you look back and you laugh. You're like, oh, I remember when I was on GameFace asking about how I got a scope from one gun to the other. Oh, what an idiot I was! But
that's all I do now.
Right? Exactly.
I just put scopes on things.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to say. But my point is like.
Put a scope on my baseball bat.
When you evaluate games like this, you're like, okay, like a month from now, I'm going to know all this stuff.
Like it's all first impressions, and like you got to get that done.
But the other part of it too is that you're evaluating this game, trying to tell somebody who will be playing it for the first time whether they should buy the game or not. And a lot of people will play this game and be like, "What the hell? I just keep dying over it," and they will die. Like I would love to watch like a casual player like play this game, like. It would be in fact, maybe that's a new series on Sifted. Is like,
casual.
Dude plays Fallout 4.
Well, it's also like interesting that like because the game, I'll give them credit on this. The game feels much more functional as a shooter.
Oh yeah, for sure. Without a doubt.
To the point that there were a couple times when like I forgot about VATS.
Yeah, when I first started playing the game, I had completely forgotten about VATS.
And like
you have to use it though.
When I ran into my first mud crab.
Yep.
And I was like, fucking bullets are bouncing off him, and like it killed the dog, like or whatever. It can disable the companion. A companion can get knocked out basically,
but not killed. Yeah.
And so I'm just like, what do I do? Oh yeah, I can do it. And of course, VATS now doesn't stop things. It's slow motion.
Yeah.
So you can still get screwed if you're not fast enough on the draw on that. Which I don't know how I feel about that yet.
And I can't figure out whether if they're moving, like if it affects the accuracy of the VATS. Like it's just nothing is explained. Like, dude, here's the thing: they don't even explain VATS.
No.
I only know because I know the series.
I played it before,
and I know it exists. Like you look at the control scheme, it says VATS here, like left shoulder button or whatever. I changed mine or whatever, but. What's VATS? To someone who didn't play Fallout 3, what the hell's VATS?
Oh.
And then even once you're like, so you tap the button and like a body part turns green and you're like, I just try to imagine somebody who isn't like us playing this game, Matt. Like, it's a nightmare. Like, for someone who hasn't played Fallout 3 and doesn't know like kind of the nuances of like the series, it's mind-boggling that this game was made this way. Like, there was no, like, and maybe in some ways it's kind of cool. That is really just for hardcore people. But there is nobody who sat on this development team that was like, hey, what about, like, my uncle when he goes to play this game? Like, there's just nobody there to ask it.
It's like, fuck your uncle.
Pretty much. That's what happened. Like, my uncle's screwed, Matt. Screwed. Like, it's just... You just don't see games like this anymore that don't explain anything. Yeah. And if you do see games that don't explain much, it's like it's not as complicated as this game.
Yeah. And remember how like in Fallout 3 when like an important tutorial thing popped up, like the game would stop.
Yep.
And it would pop up and you had to like confirm to quit out. Now it's just like thing pops up in the corner and if you don't look at it, sorry, you missed a key element of the crafting system or whatever. It's like...
Well, it's like I missed the whole thing with like building like your base, and then you build other bases, because you're basically trying to build these bases that attract more people so that you can build up this faction of people called the Minutemen, who are like the dissenters or whatever in the world. And so... Like, I didn't even know at first, like, what I was supposed to be doing with this crap. So I, like, started my first, like, homestead at, like, a drive-through or drive-in. movie theater, like an abandoned one or whatever, and like I had to like attach a tower to the top of it or whatever, and like just that, dude. So you have to build a generator. You put the generator down. Then you build a tower. Well, then you have to connect the generator to the tower. So they're like, use a wire. It says use a wire to connect it. I'm like, okay. So I start looking through like the items, the crafting things, and it's like I go to like power. I look for connectors. And I'm looking. There's nothing there. There's no wires.
Yeah, I found that because they wanted water or whatever. They wanted a water pump or whatever at the first settlement. And like, okay, build a generator. All right, build the pump. Okay, fine, hook up to a wire. I'm like, where's the wire? I can't find the wire. So I go up to the thing, and there's a thing. It's like press whatever button it says attach wire.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so I do that, and so I go over and I walk over to the pump, and I go, okay, and nothing.
No, see, I didn't even see the command to attach the wire.
But here's the thing: is like I keep going back. I'm like, okay, I go back up the wire. No, it turns red. Why is it turning red? It's turning red because you can only string the wire for so long before you need another connector, like tower thing to do. And then I look through and I can't figure out which tower, which object that is.
The
to
whole
connect
game
that.
is like this.
So I just picked the power generator up and moved it next to the pump and just hooked them up like that.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, that is probably not the ideal way to teach me how to do this.
That's the way the whole game is. Yeah. Like, it really, there's just a lot of trial and error. Like, I did not even see that, I had to hit triangle to connect the wires. Like, I just assumed I needed to, like, grab it from something I had to craft.
Well, because everything else is like that.
Exactly. Like, the logic in the game is just bonkers. And so, but here's the thing. Like, I am still loving it. Like, I'm still really enjoying playing this game. Like, the difficulty isn't so... Look, I've been mad. I've flipped off my TV. I've yelled the F-bomb many times playing this game. But it's not that, like, over-the-top level. Like, a lot of people feel like the Soul series or, like, Bloodborne is. Like, it's manageable. And, like, you do kind of learn every time you do something. Like, and you learn to use VATS. Like, you have to use VATS or you have no chance. So... Once you really start getting into using VATS and things like that, it becomes manageable, and it's not, like, overwhelming. And that's the thing about this game, and you know, it's huge, and, like, you discover all these different people, and, like, there's all these different causes going on that you get kind of wrapped up in, and, like, I'm still loving it. I'm loving the environment of the game. Not the visual environment that you see, but just, like, the whole tone of it, I guess.
Yeah, well, the way, they had that in Fallout, I think... It wasn't there so much in Oblivion, but in Fallout 3, Bethesda really learned how to tell a story with how they decorated an area.
Yeah.
And, like, you can kind of, Fallout, and Skyrim had it to some degree, but I think it's easier to do it in a post-apocalyptic setting, maybe, where, like, you come into a room and you see, the two skeletons, like, hugging each other on a bed, and you're like, oh, that's what happened here.
Yeah.
There was one thing I wandered into in this one where, like, everything, dead people in a room, just skeletons, like, and, go in the bathroom, and there's a dead body in the bathtub and 3 mannequins standing around the bathtub, and they're all holding machetes. And I'm like, what the fuck happened in here? It's like, and I'm just like, I have no idea what that means. It didn't relate to anything else in the building. There was no other, like, nothing about that is paid off other than I took the machetes.
Right. Yeah. Like, of course you did, because you take everything in this game. Because you need to. You have to have it all for scrap to, like, craft things.
I leave just a trail of naked dead people in my wake, because I'm just like, I'm taking all your fucking leather. That's all coming with me.
Yeah, because you need it to craft.
Because you got to break it down so you can upgrade your own weapon, your own armor. And I'm kind of into that, but it's like there's so much of this game that feels like Fallout 3.
Yeah.
And part of that is nice because you slip into that rhythm, because I liked Fallout 3 a lot, but part of it is also like I feel like I'm playing something I already played.
Yeah.
And there's little things I love that they got rid of degradation on the weapons and armor. I mean, you still have to repair power armor if it gets screwed up. But, like, your normal armor, your weapons, like, they don't degrade. If you find something you really like, you can keep it forever. Yeah. You can even rename it. It lets you rename your favorite weapons, whatever you want. Yeah. I like that I named my character Matt, and, like, everyone calls me Matt. Yeah. There's all those names.
Well, I named mine Dinfire. I should have named myself Shane so I could get that, but they're not going to have Dinfire.
But, like, there's this element. It feels so much like there are other games that it's this weird mix of, like, oh, it feels good to be back, and I've done this.
It's just like going home for Christmas, back to your hometown. Yeah. You're like, for the first day, you're like,
oh, it's great to be in this bar again. I haven't been in this bar in forever. Oh, yeah, the beer doesn't taste very good here.
And the people here really suck.
The people here are like, yeah. But it's like, you're still glad you went.
Yeah.
But it's not really the best thing that happened to you this December. Kind of thing, you know? And I kind of feel like that right now. And it's all like, it's so much, it's, you know, it really is clearly the old engine, you know, the engine they've been using
let's
forever.
just transition on over to the visuals in this game, which, by pretty much modern definitions, it's terrible.
It's not good.
This game is not a good-looking game, and the character models are literally probably the ugliest character models I've ever seen.
Well, I wouldn't go that
after
far.
Like the PlayStation 2 era.
Well, I'm playing on PC, like 4K, the whole thing, you know, going like full on. And yeah, like, it's a shame for this game's well-being. It's a shame it came out in the same year as Witcher 3, because it's just outclassed in terms of open world stuff. Because like that's usually the thing that kind of in my head sort of helps get around that, is like, well, it's so big and you can manipulate so many things and all. It's like, it's cool. It's okay that the trees don't look good, but like, we've already played games this year where the trees do look good. And
there's no excuse for this game to look this way. There's no excuse. After playing a game like The Witcher 3, The Witcher 3 puts this game to shame.
Yeah. In
so many ways visually. It's not even...
And the other thing is, this, you know, Witcher 3 on my rig runs at just a rock solid 60 frames per second. This game dips to 50 or 53. Like
I know people are like saying first world problems right now, but Matt's rig is a beast.
It's a beast.
Like he literally just spared no expense to build his new rig.
But there's just like this element of like, there's no reason just because some shaders are on the water that this thing should drop. Like there's no like that to me feels like some kind of like optimization problem on the part of the game, not my hardware. Like I can run way more demanding stuff than this at a higher, more solid, steady frame rate.
Yeah, the character models in this game are so off-putting, and it's such a story-driven game that like it's really hard for them to convey any emotion in like the cutscenes. Like I'm having a hard time caring about like anybody. Mm-hmm. And I hate to say it, it feels kind of superficial, but it's just like they're so off-putting and jarring in how bad they look, and like the animation is awful, and the lip syncing's terrible, and like
to me it really looks like Fallout 3 with a bunch of mods.
It really does. I mean, it's like a higher resolution Fallout 3. I mean, I really feel like they've probably used the same exact engine in this game.
Well, it's still the Gamebryo thing, you know, very very heavily modified, but it's still the same engine they made Oblivion on.
Yeah. And have you had any glitches? Because I have had none. Like, I've seen all the glitch videos, but I have had none.
I've had a few. I've had, there's an area, like, to the slightly to the east of the town you start in, which is like, it's like a mining quarry kind of thing, but it's full of water. And, like, the quest there is you talk to a guy and he wants you to fix these pipes under the water, which is, of course, radioactive, so it's bad to swim in it. But, like, you fix it and then he gets a pump that can, like, empty the water. But when I went to it, it was covered in like this kind of square texture that looked like the lowest imaginable resolution concrete. Imagine like concrete texture from like the PS1. Like that's what it looks like. And it's covering the thing, and if you walk through it, you can like walk through it. It's you know, intangible, and like underneath it is like the ramp into the quarry and everything that you're supposed to see. But on my screen, it was just like this low res like box covering this area, and I had to like go through and kind of like, it was like kind of, you know, like clipping through like the things the valves I was supposed to turn off, so I couldn't see where they were. So I had to like kind of hunt around and find where the, you know, the interaction like prompt came up. It was just like a mess, and I restarted it. I rebooted the computer. And just every time I reloaded the game up, it looked like that. There was nothing I could do to fix it, and so I don't know what the problem. And the thing about that was like, it's like 100 yards from the town you start in. It's not like I'm like 40 hours into the game and on the far side of the map, this thing that maybe 40 people were going to find by now are like seeing it, and it's like, oh, it doesn't render right. It's like, this thing is like 2 locations away from where you start. Like, how is that happening?
I've had no glitches. The only issue that I had was just the way the game is designed, and there was this one area where I was in a building, and you'd fall down a hole in the elevator, and you go into this other room that has like a safe and a bunch of like stuff to loot, like good stuff. The problem is that you're trapped in there, and you have to use the computer monitor to hack the door to get out. Otherwise, you're literally trapped. And I don't know if you've done any of that stuff yet, but basically what it comes down to is just randomly selecting a word on the screen and hoping
like
it's
Fallout
right.
3.
Yeah, exactly. And I was stuck in this room for like 10 minutes because I could not get the word right for the computer terminal. Like,
and it resets every time you back out, so you don't like lock it up because you.
Well, no, it's like the way it does it is like you get to guess the word 5 times or 6 times, and then it locks you out. And so,
well, what you do is if you don't get it down to the last try, you just back out of the computer and try again.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that's basic Fallout 3 trick. Is if you guess how many times you done, if you don't get it by the last guess, you just back out, go back in.
See, I didn't even know that.
And the password changes, so you have to start over
yeah,
again.
See, I
but
know.
At least it doesn't lock you out, so you can't try again for however much time.
Well, the lockout's only 10 seconds, but it's just stupid. It's like I'm trapped in this room for like literally 10 minutes just trying to get the right word. Like, the game is full of stuff like this, just like little weird like issues that will drive some people crazy. Some people will blow them off and say whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm still really enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike it at all. It's just sort of, at this point, I'm not entirely sure it's going to keep me away. Because I was worried about Battlefront next week, where I'm like...
Hey, everybody, by the way, start getting your questions in now.
Yeah. Because I was like worried, like, am I going to be able to tear myself away from Fallout to play Battlefront next week? And I feel like right now the answer is absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I'm going to be okay. And but the other thing is, like, you know, I've run into that. I've run into like a glitch where like these radiation storms like hit, and like afterwards, all the foliage, because the foliage blows in the wind, and then after the wind's gone, the foliage on at least on my game, wiggles like it's having a seizure. It looks like, you know how like if you took like blowing like trees and you like tripled the speed of the video, it looks like that.
Oh, right.
And I'm like, what the hell is it? And that doesn't stop until you fast travel away from it. So, but at the same time, this game is so huge and so vast. Like, it's sort of like, it's like the forums, you know? It's like, how, you know, some of this stuff is, I'm sure, like, all these different people with these different hardware configurations had to go in and break this thing in ways that, you know, Bethesda could never have imagined.
Yeah.
And now, I'm sure, you know, I know everybody was kind of saying, like, oh, I'm waiting for the first patch. I'm waiting for the first 2 patches, whatever. And I'm like, well, I can't, because we got to talk. You know, we got to talk about it. You know, we got to play it at launch, see what it's like, tell people what to expect.
Yeah.
And right now, I'm like, well, I might just wait for them to patch it after all, because right now, you know, just in 6 hours, I've run into a bunch of like, you know, display glitches and problems, and I'm just like, well, that's really difficult to play through.
Matt, how do you feel about the fact that a lot of reviews have even mentioned, you know, in fact, most reviews go on and on about all the problems this game has, like just tons. And then they just basically ignore them all and have given it like gigantic scores. Like, how do you feel about that?
I don't particularly like it. I think, you know, and it's like, it's hard because it's like, well, you know, a lot of those problems will probably be fixed either by Bethesda's official patches or by community mods eventually.
Yeah.
But, you know, how do you address that?
You can't assume, though.
Yeah,
you can't assume that they're going to be able to fix everything.
But what you're telling...
And I feel like that's what a lot of the critics are doing is just, well, we've seen this before with their games, and we know... You don't know, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of benefits.
You're assuming that things are going to work the same way as before.
Well, there's also a lot of like, well, I really enjoyed this game anyway.
You're right.
You know, and maybe, you know, maybe there's people that don't care.
Well, it kind of goes back to my theory on how I do podcasts. Is like I try to bring up anything that could be a potential issue to somebody and then let them choose whether it's going to affect them or not, or whether it really bothers them. But I feel like when you're talking about a review, and if you're going to put a score in your review, I think what you're seeing here is what I've talked about with like our game evals, is that hidden algorithm, that fuzzy logic that a lot of the scoring systems at some sites allow for. It's like, well, there's all this stuff wrong with it, but it still gets that 9.5. It's like, how do you rationalize that? Like, some people just don't. I guess that's what it really comes down to.
And it's like, how do you, you know, because like for every thing where I was like, oh, that's an ugly texture, that doesn't look good. There've been like times when like the atmosphere looked great. Right. It looked like dawn, and like the god rays are coming through the trees.
Right,
and
or
stuff,
like,
and it's like,
there was like one time I returned to like the gas station and it was just covered in fog.
Yeah,
and I was just like, you know, a fog bank just rolled in out of nowhere, and like, yeah, sometimes like from a distance the game looks good. The closer you get to stuff, the worse it looks.
Yeah, that first, you know, that traditional, you know, Bethesda first exit into the world,
right,
where you see everything and you're like, whoa, like, yeah, it strikes a good vista.
Yeah. But it is not a good-looking game, though.
Don't look too closely at that shelf.
Definitely not. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm having fun with it. The game eval hopefully will be up in the next couple days. You get to see my official take on it. I think I've kind of shared my opinion on most of it, at least.
I mean, I would say, like, look, if you love Fallout 3...
Yeah, go buy it.
You're going to love this
game. Yeah, I can tell you
too.
that right now. If you like Fallout 3, just go get it. Like, you'll get 70, 100, 200 hours out of this game, and you'll love every minute of it. But
if you hated Fallout 3, this is not going to change your mind.
That's a good way to put it. And I think, if people typically don't like games like this that are a little janky, like if you didn't like Skyrim when it first came out, like if you didn't like Fallout 3 when it first came out and you played a couple hours of it, we're like, screw this, like this is a piece of junk, like you're going to have the same feelings.
But there's a lot to love in here if you're ready for a game that's not, it's not Witcher 3 perfect.
Yeah.
Not Witcher 3 wasn't Witcher 3 perfect, frankly.
That's the worst thing that happened to this game, by the way, is The Witcher 3.
It really is.
Because it just showed, it makes this game look so bad in comparison.
Yeah.
Because everything's explained in that game. Like, you're not left wondering how to do stuff. Like, that game's just as complicated, has just as many systems, but it's all explained, and you know how to use it all. And, there's a lot of learning that you do while playing this game.
Yeah, and in some ways, that is a throwback to, classic gaming where you had to figure stuff out. There's tons of PC games I played back in the day where it took me a year to figure out the final level puzzle of the Crescent Hawk's Inception. That used to be part of the hobby.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to some questions here. A lot of them are Fallout 4 related. Surprise, surprise.
Who knew?
Let's see. Any thoughts on the console versions versus PC or even PS4 versus Xbox One? I hear the Xbox One has some nasty issues. What's the deal with the disparity? Well, right now, the only good version is the PC version. It's the only one that will run at a rock-solid frames per second, even though you're saying you're having some problems with it even on your PC.
Yeah, well, I'm running it at a 4K, so I'm sure if I dropped it to 1080, it would be 60 like a rock, no question.
PlayStation 4 version runs like crap. It literally runs
and
like
according to
crap.
Digital Foundry, the Xbox One version is worse.
It will, according to Digital Foundry, the Xbox One version will drop down to 10 frames a second and even bottom out for brief seconds. But I'll tell you what, the PlayStation 4 version isn't much better. It literally will give you motion sickness. So a lot of times you're running, it just feels like you're in slow. It's just a crappy frame rate. You know what it feels like if you've played games for a long time. It has it. It is bad. There's no sugarcoating it. It's bad on the PlayStation 4. It's bad on Xbox One. If you can, definitely get the PC version. Let's see. Have you guys ever bought a console just for one game? I got an Xbox One today just for Tomb Raider. That is from SMC92 Ian.
No.
Yes.
Never.
Yeah, I bought the N64 just because of Super Mario 64.
I bought the N64 when that came out because I wanted to play Shadows of the Empire and Mario 64. So that's two games. But I knew other games were coming that I definitely wanted. So
I honestly really didn't. Super Mario 64 blew me away so much. If I had bought that console and only ever played that game, I don't think I would regret it because it literally just blew my freaking mind.
My rule tends to be there needs to be 5 games on a system that I know I want.
Yeah,
and that's my breaking point.
I bought N64 just for Super Mario 64. I wouldn't have cared if anything came after that.
Unless it's a Sega console back in the day, in which case I was an idiot. So I bought the Saturn mainly for Capcom fighting games.
Okay, here's another one about Fallout 4 from Goji Gogo. Question: does the fun you're having in Fallout 4 outweigh the bad? Do you need to have played the third installment or no?
I would say it definitely outweighs the bad.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to have played Fallout 3, but if you have played Fallout 3, you will understand what you're doing a lot faster.
If you haven't played Fallout 3, you're going to be really frustrated at the beginning of this game.
In fact, if you can play Fallout 3, the first hour of Fallout 3, that might help before you play Fallout 4.
But Fallout 4 is out, no one's going to do that.
Yeah. Well, the Xbox version comes with Fallout 3.
It does, yeah. But yeah, the fun does outweigh the bad. It can be really frustrating on a number of levels, particularly at the outset. But
yeah, just be ready that you're going to have to meet this game halfway to some degree.
It's not an easy game. That's, I guess, the best way to put it. In any sense, it's not easy.
But I think everything that we find annoying in it right now will be second nature by Sunday.
So. Yep. What did you want from Fallout 4 gameplay-wise? This is from W. Matthew. I like it. It's a waste. I want to be barely getting by, but that is just me wanting gameplay and themes to match up. I'm not sure what that means.
I think he means it should be hard because you're supposed to be barely surviving in this world.
And they nail that part of it. It's like I said, I still don't feel like I'm a level up on the enemies.
I feel I'm only level 7 or so, but I feel like the perks are pushing me towards a real overpowered state. I think it's not going to be too long before I feel like I can handle anything the game throws at me. But that's also kind of the fun of those Bethesda open world games, is sort of that progression from weak little runt to like bring it on.
Yep.
So.
Next question from This Is For Vidya Games. Will Yuji Naka ever get a break? Can't believe I had to wait till 2015 to buy a Wii game. Do you think he will get the chance to make a big game again?
Yuji Naka?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Rodea came out today also. Sky Soldier.
No, probably not.
I don't think he will get a chance
I love
to make
Yuji Naka's games.
game.
Knights is one of my favorite games of all time. He was also one of my favorite interviews of all time. He's a cool dude. But I think the era of his kind of game is kind of over.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's ever going to recover.
He hasn't made a great game in a really long time. Let's just remember that.
And he still owes me for making me suffer through Billy Hatcher.
From Chester Eugene, would Fallout 4 still make it into your Game of the Year convo, Shane? Yes, most definitely.
Sure. No question.
Let's see.
Unless something horrible happens in the next 30 hours of it. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure this is up there.
Have you guys played Triforce Heroes? I just got Triforce Heroes. I've not had a chance to play it yet, Tom Andy, unfortunately. Let's see. Are the issues with Fallout more or less an issue due to how the marketing public announcement was handled compared to the other big games? It was such a short media period compared to an Assassin's Creed marketing period. Does that have any influence on your opinion? It does not. But one thing I will say is I now know why they didn't show this game. It's because it looks terrible. And the longer this game was out there with people having footage of it and looking at it, I feel like the opinion on the game would have soured over time because the footage wasn't getting any better. Of what they showed. The trailers that they showed of this game made this game look a lot better than it looks when you're really playing it, I guess is the best way to put it. And
it's really uneven visually.
Yeah, and I feel like they intentionally went with this shorter cycle because they knew what the game looked like, and they knew people care about that and make a big stink about it, and they have made a big stink about it. There's people all over the internet.
Especially because, Skyrim was a graphical darling of the time. They've always kind of blown you away visually before, and this one just... I think they're pushing this, this modified version of the Gamebryo engine as far as it'll go, but that's just not far enough.
They needed to build a new engine.
Yeah,
they did.
They needed whatever they hoped for was going to come out of the id purchase needed to pay off for this game, and it doesn't seem like it has.
Yep. All right, so that's it. That's the last question. This show is now 2 hours and 40 minutes long. We may just set a Guinness record. Somebody called Guinness. This may be the longest talk show in the history of television, even though this isn't television.
No.
Well, anyway, it is time to wrap it up. We have definitely gone way over, but you guys are definitely...
this is like post E3 length.
You are getting your money's worth. This was a big day today. There was a lot of stuff to talk about today. So I think we definitely had relevant topics all the way through. Hopefully you guys agree with it. Again, get on this forum, folks. Bang them. If you're a premium subscriber, make sure you are working them because that's the only way we're going to get all the bugs out. So make sure you do that. We'll be here next week. We'll have another big show. We'll be talking tons of Battlefront next week. Hopefully that shows up. I still haven't got Battlefront. I'm starting to get a little nervous, so we'll see. But regardless, we'll be talking about it one way or the other next week in addition to a bunch of other great stuff. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.